Edits to the minutes from the July 1st meeting. Okay, we're going to go to corrections after the minutes. We're going to approve those without objection and go ahead and move to city staff report, starting with the fire department.
Lieutenant John Hattrip, and Station 10, Fire Person Health Side. I think we'll just address, we appreciate the outpouring of support we received from everyone from our recent loss of Ty. It's definitely hit us pretty hard. He was a solid fireman, one of the best. And it's a tragedy that we lost him so soon and suddenly. If you haven't heard, his funeral arrangements have been made for Friday. They'll be at the Park City Arena. Public viewing starts at 9 a.m. Funeral will start at 10. As far as cause, that's still under investigation. So we haven't heard. What we're doing right now is, we're just all kind of process everything that happened, sticking together, and we really do. We appreciate everyone who attended the dignified transfer. It was real touching for both us and his family. Fire department wise, you'll see crews out right now. We are testing hydrants. We're trying to do this as efficiently as possible with the drought restrictions, but it has been deemed as a critical task that needs to be done. They're kind of important, and we're firefighters, so we need to make sure they work. We made it through the 4th of July as well, which is always a fun time for us. We had about 1,600 calls related to fireworks. Only one structure fire though this year. District 1 had 5 fires since you guys' last meeting. 1 was due to arson, 2 were accidental, and 2 more remain under investigation.
I know maybe you're not able to speak to this with your personal opinion, but I would be curious with you here now that we got past July. Is there anything you noticed as a part of the new fireworks policy that magic wand, if it could make things easier as the DAB gets feedback and the fireworks committee meets, anything that could make the process better for you all?
I mean, really the biggest difference in my experiences has been the institution of the non-emergency number. That emergency number fielded 1,200 calls, and that was big. It's been extremely helpful for us that we aren't having to send units to complaints versus actual alarms. So that's keeping our rigs in service and responding to potential emergencies. So citizens utilizing that has been a big help for us.
Any questions, comments from DAB members for the fire department? Any questions or comments from the public for the fire department? Thank you so much. We'll receive fire.
Thank you.
Library. You going to be library?
Are you ready, please?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you up there. Thanks. All right, we'll go ahead and do please. Sorry, I didn't see you up on the screen.
Oh, good. I thought I was out of it. I was getting excited. So as you know, our systems were active a few months ago. We're just now getting stats reported back to us. That is an ongoing issue with trying to get everything caught up. So they're not as accurate as they could be. All I can report on that is that from what we have inputted so far, the stats are looking good for DAB 1. There are no critical concerns. What we do have coming up is back to school. So we need to make sure that everyone in DAB 1 is being forever vigilant with bus drivers and kids. Because for the last 2 months, we haven't had kids walking the streets going to school. We will now have that again. So shortly after the start of the school year, we'll be doing some bus assignments, making sure people are stopping at bus stops, stopping for the bus stop signs when they come out, stuff like that, and keeping our youth safe. A majority of them in District 1 walk to school, so we just need to be vigilant with them. The few events coming out, we have Neighborhood Night Out is August 13th, next Tuesday. That'll be in the evening time. That'll be with police will be out and about mingling with the community as the community have their gatherings, so we'll be out and about with that. This Thursday, August 8th, from 10 to 1, the Kansas Department of Children and Families are putting on a community job and resource fair at the Boys and Girls Club, 2400 North Opportunity. So I wanted to put that out to anybody in DAB 1 that wants to try to find a job. There'll be a lot of different workforce centers there. So that's 10 to 1 this Thursday, August 8th. And then Lastly, I have some updates from Patrol East. Pull that email up real quick. Their new substation is operational. That open house will be August 15th from 10:45 to 1 p.m. So if you want to come out and see the new Patrol East substation over by the old Southeast, you're more than welcome to do that. That's August 15th, 10:45 to 1. The spring 24 class just graduated. 27 new officers are starting the FTO program. You'll see them out and about with their FTOs. And they'll be in that 12-week FTO or 16-week FTO program. The fall of 24 class just started. They have 37 recruit officers in that class. So number 37 will be out in the streets at the end of this year. And then all of the patrol stations now have their Facebook accounts up and are active. So if you want to join them, follow them, they'll be posting regularly on updates and stuff like that. So that's all I have for my side of things. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions, comments, or doubts?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, unrelated. One of them is, so this graduating class of new officers, what's the minority breakdown? Like how many were women? How many maybe Hispanic? Et cetera?
I don't personally have that breakdown. I believe they're on our City of Wichita page. They put who all graduated. So you can probably see off of our patrol or Wichita Police Department Facebook page or the City of Wichita page. But I don't personally have that breakdown.
Saying it is posted on there, you think it's posted on there, that breakdown?
At least you can see who we graduated and you can see the breakdown yourself. I don't know that we broke it down that way. But I can find out. Probably it's pretty simple to find out, but I don't have it on hand with me.
Cameron, is it possible to make a note to find that out for the next meeting? Just to
Sure.
get that.
And the other question is a follow-up to what we were talking with the fire department about, and that was 4th of July. Do you have any statistics on how many citations were issued? Because in the past, I've been surprised the citation number was really incredibly low.
Let me see if I can pull something up.
Excuse me?
I'm looking it up.
Oh.
See if I can find it. I can't find it, but I'll get it to you. So I'll have it ready, good to go for next dab if you want those stats. I don't have them handy.
I haven't read enough on this opinion or numerous productive questions.
Yeah, I don't have them, so I can get them for the next dab.
Well, I would say I would like, something that came out in the news about a week ago, and something that DAB has dealt with, over the years is the additional technology. The block technology, the license plate readers, and now we have the gunshot, detectors. If it's possible to have, a presentation, because there's been a lot of news running around that, and transparency and how that will be reported. The Eagle has reported that there will be a public map or database, heat map that the public will have access to as part of the transparency process. So I would love it if a future meeting, we could get, doesn't have to be a long update, but someone to come in and speak about the gunshot sensors and the cover, how the corrections made, the lack of transparency and how that's being rolled out. Because my concern initially is that it's being specifically rolled out in a particular, in a particular model area versus being tested out throughout parts of the city to get an actual comprehensive map. Now, maybe that's a technological or budgetary issue at the time, but that's a part of the things I think we should probably talk about for a future meeting. So we can get that a presentation on that.
Yeah, I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Any questions? Any other questions from gathering?
Really good question. I know that Officer Sark probably won't be able to answer this right now, but since we are creating a running list, I'd be curious, where are we at with staffing levels with the Wichita Police Department? I know that's been a very big conversation. And then the second part is if there's any data that showcases the retention rate of those officers since the bonus was implemented. I know that that was a big conversation as well. But I also know that even those who received the bonus, that wasn't attached to having to, stay on or remain as an officer, and perhaps maybe some of them retired. I would just wonder what impact that's had on our staffing levels from the Wichita Police Department.
Yeah, I'll get an updated staffing level because they just changed with the new recruit class coming out. So I'll have an updated staffing level for you next.
Thank you.
Any
Already
questions? Thank you so much for your time, officer. Sorry. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Thanks, Art.
We see file the
Yes, Cameron.
action. We'll move on to library. Thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be here. Hello, everybody. I'm Parker. I'm a community services librarian for the Maya Angelou Northeast branch, and I have some updates. Our local author day comes back on Saturday, August the 10th at the Advanced Learning Library. It will begin with a writers panel from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. where featured authors will share their experiences writing, publishing, and marketing their books. And then there will be an author expo from 2 to 4 p.m. where attendees can meet authors and purchase their books. The Angelo branch needs your feedback on upcoming renovations. Hutton have provided details on design elements. You can come into our location and scan the QR code and provide your feedback, or you can complete one of our paper forms. We're really making a lot of improvements to improve service at Angelo. I hope that you come by and share your opinion. Yes.
I wonder if you can say anything about the potential RFP they're talking about for the
RFP.
RFP,
What do you mean?
The
request for proposal,
Request for proposal. So
for the permanent fabric art behind, or either that or for the lamp shade,
at Angelo.
you know that they talked
It was,
about Saturday.
It was a RFP that was discussed that wasn't supposed to be discussed yet. So she
I'm sorry. I'll find more about that and get back to you.
Okay,
Thanks for.
I'll check in with you later.
Okay. Also, renovations continue at our Rockwell and Alfred branches. I'm sorry, Rockwell and Westlink. And more information on that can be found at wichitalibrary.org. We will also be having a blood drive through American Red Cross at the Advanced Learning Library. That's Monday, August the 26th from 11 to 5 p.m. Information can be found at www.redcrossblood.org/give.html. You can set an appointment there. Next, you can now borrow blood pressure monitors from the library. Each kit will include a monitor, a logbook, a pre-survey book, and an instruction booklet. And finally, our dear branch manager, Anne, is retiring. Her last day will be the 13th of September. And tomorrow, tomorrow, we have a new branch manager starting. Her name is Sierra Kelly. She has lots of experience doing programming through an inner city library. She was previously with Mid-Continental Library in the city. I look forward to working with her. That's all I have.
Where is she gonna be?
She's going to be the branch manager over Angelo and Evergreen.
Okay. So you're not the branch manager.
No, I'm the community services librarian.
Need to learn that distinction.
So are the authors local authors or?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. It's going to be Jillian Forsberg, Julia Favors McBride, and Grant Snyder, all of the authors.
What time is the panel?
That is going to run from 10:30 to 11:30 at the Advanced Learning Library.
Any questions or comments? Park?
So You keep hearing about the wonderful things at my Angela Library, and I just want to attest to one in particular. With my summer education program, to kindergartners, first, second, and third graders to the museum, to the library. And they did a scavenger hunt, and it helped them to learn about all the different things the library has to offer. It was a unique experience. A lot of our kids hadn't been to the library, and so it was really good. You were patient with them, you were kind with them, and they really appreciated the trip. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm really glad that the library and they got to use it. Did you have any other questions? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Parks and Rec.
No, you're done.
They have a written report.
Yes.
Okay. The written report will receive and file. Fire department also provided an additional written report will receive and file. And we'll move to the public works presentation.
Evening, I'm Steve Dagenhart. I'm an assistant city engineer with Public Works Engineering. Want to cover some ongoing construction projects, then also provide an update of some projects under the design phase. So first off, Commerce and St. Francis, that construction began in June and it's currently underway to rebuild both St. Francis and Commerce south of Waterman. The Edgemore Plaza is substantially complete. There is one more component, the shade trellis, which is estimated to be completed in October. Some of our OP3 work going on right now, the pavement repairs and asphalt overlay on Grove phase 1, which is considered the repair phase. That portion is completed. Initially in my report, I had the overlay scheduled for October, but the contractor has some crew availability. If they can get free at the end of this week, they will certainly try to get it done before the start of school next week. Brick crosswalk repair work is underway at K96 and Rock Road to repair those brick crosswalks at that interchange. Last for construction, the Brewer Community Center construction began last month and is underway working on site work and utilities. Projects under design, the Bleckley Drainage Project, City Council approved concept in May earlier this year. And right now, phase 1, which is going to essentially rebuild the channel from Kellogg up to Waterman. We've reviewed some preliminary plans on that just late last month. So the 15th Street Bridge at the Wichita Drainage Canal should have final plans later this year. Looking at construction would be next year, then in 2025. Downtown streets, conversion of Main Market to two-way from Kellogg to Murdoch. We opened bids here on the traffic signal installations just on Friday. And we'll have some other kind of pavement work and restriping of the pavement markings that will happen later this year. And then the multimodal facility, not exactly in District 1, but kind of, important for Wichita as a whole. Bids were opened back in June and went over the engineer's estimate. So it'll return to the city council here this month and look to actually and rebid this month as well, late this month. So, and then as part of the Dirt Streets program, Baton Drive and 16th Street North should be wrapping up design, looking for construction later this fall. And with that, that's all I've got to report for Public Works.
With the Bleckley planning project, with the prelim plans looked at last month, does that mean is there even a ballpark on ideal completion of that?
So that first phase, the channel work, just along the west side of the VA hospital, that won't go to construction until probably 2025. Overall, the whole project, I believe we're looking at 2028 timeframe approximately. That would take it on up to Elm Street, just north of Central.
Any questions or comments from that for Public Works?
Can you
address some of the stuff around the drought and the city's, I don't know, mandates around watering and so forth while you're here?
Sure. So, Wichita is in stage 2 as of right now, as of today. So that enacts, mandatory water restrictions. That's across the board to everyone, except for those few businesses that generate their income based on water usage, such as nurseries, sod companies, well, others. There were just a few examples listed in the ordinance. But essentially, the city's been divided into the four quadrants, if you will, for watering, with basically Central and Broadway kind of being the two major dividing streets. These are mandatory. This is in place. There's a phone number and reporting app that folks can use if they have any questions or concerns about the drought. But it is, the first incident is a warning from the city, and then after that, the fines.
Sir, it's your unlucky day to be here, because I'm gonna be out of town and cannot attend the city council meeting on Thursday. So I have feedback that I'm disappointed that Councilmember Johnson's not here. So attached to the agenda, there was the Public Works done to the during city council workshop. So the attachment for that is part of our meeting packet. And so if we can go through that, and a couple months ago or the month before, I think the head of the Public Works Department came and did a breakfast, and we talked a little bit about this. And so then things changed quite a bit. So current conditions, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but current conditions, it said stage 3 likely in 12 to 18 months. So if drought persists as modeled. So the modeling, and they talked a little bit about it, and it looks like the drought may persist. So one of my big issues is that the Wichita Landscape Ordinance is very contrary to what the citizens are being told to do now. At that council workshop, they suggested, and it's in here, that we don't plant any more trees or shrubs or overseed our yards or anything like that in the fall. But the city ordinance, if you're doing anything residential, and we even see it then in some of these zoning things, there's a lot of requirements for trees and shrubs and so forth. So that's got to change. Either we're in a drought and it applies to everybody, or we're not, right? So I would encourage a almost strong arm, if you will, to city council that they've got to change that, and we have to embrace this drought and maybe mandate zero or zero escaping, whatever it is, right? That's one of the big ones. Has there been any discussion about that?
Oh, absolutely. And there's been a number of businesses that have contacted us, and including the Wichita Area Builders Association, and we told them this applies to you also. So it's been explained that there's no overseeing, no new landscaping to go in and such. So even those that are building new homes that would expect to, be able to put a sod in, if they are expected to run their irrigation system on city water, they cannot do that. They can only water in the designated days.
But the ordinance mandates X number of trees and shrubs, and it mandates a permanent irrigation system. I looked at the ordinance this
I'm
weekend.
not sure what landscape ordinance you're necessarily referring to, but needless to say,
It's in the Unified Zoning Code.
Yeah,
Is that for commercial? Yeah, it's for commercial and multi-family properties.
Yeah.
I know that this would take precedence over that, and so I'll ask.
and when they say take precedence, I mean, it says you have to, and it specifies number of trees and size of trees for frontage, footage and so forth, right? And so, I mean, I take that as a mandate. and people are going to build, and we see it all the time in some of our zoning cases. So there's the mandate, but then, yeah, you have to do this, but you, but you can't water it. That's a conflict. I mean, if this is going, if the drought persists, and who makes the decisions? The city council about, changing the landscaping ordinance?
Sure, I mean, any change to ordinance would have to be done by the city council with recommendations from staff and that way, but.
But even-
There's going to be a temporary suspension on, I would imagine we're not gonna go, enforce the ordinance on required or zoning, ordinance that would require some of that stuff at this point. They would have to be deferred, just like any other, any resident would have to defer any landscaping.
So doesn't drought management count as an emergency situation, emergency
Sure.
procedures and whatnot that would
Yes.
override and postpone those?
Yes, I would agree with the way you phrased it there. Yes, absolutely.
Well,
So
that has to be official.
Sorry, if I could chime in just because this relates to the zoning code. So my understanding is that commercial building permits can't be issued until a landscape plan has been submitted. That's not necessarily saying we're going to plant these in the middle of August. Like, I'm not a gardener, but I don't think we plant these kinds of trees. Yes. So it wouldn't affect the process of the building permit as long as you have the intention of eventually planting that landscaping. We haven't looked into any exceptions for it now, but I can relay that to my broker.
But I think it needs to go even just that next step. Change it to where it's more xeriscaping requirements and not the trees that are required.
Yeah.
Right? I think this is gonna be, this drought situation is gonna be with us for quite a while, changing us down, quite a bit. So there's that. And then the plan to reduce water use, targeted water reduction, 10%. So I think there should be transparency on how that's gonna be measured. 10%, reduction of 10% of, monthly, I mean, what's 10% of what, right?
Sure, I would say that's most likely 10% of what we would typically see on average for this time of year, for the month of August. So our treatment plant, we can track how much water is going out to the system, daily, weekly, even with the water bill, have the ability to even see the usage that someone's had over the past X number of days. So we would be able to really see whether the usage is dropping or not.
Well, and then, but add some context to that, like if we get some rain or we get a real cool spell, that changes things, right? So if you just get 10%, oh yeah, we've met our 10% reduction, but oh, we had an unusual a cool spell, or we had a lot of rain. It doesn't feel very specific or transparent. Let's see. And then when the head of this, of Public Works was here for that breakfast, he didn't indicate at that time that water rates were gonna double. He said maybe about 10%, $10 per tier, right? And so then this doubling was quite a shock when that came up in the city council workshop. So, I mean, every little bit makes a difference. And then I take exception also with
What was the date on that, if you don't mind? That's my point. Does it have a date?
July 23rd.
July 23rd.
Yeah. City council workshop, July 23rd. Let's see. Well, getting the word out, the head of the communications department or whatever with the city said that she had been working with neighborhood associations. Right, where's the transparency on that? How many has she contacted? What's been the response? I received nothing from my neighborhood association about that, so I don't know that that's all very effective. Has she or others, I only know like a couple of things, right? I worked in the medical field. There's tons of medical campuses, big yards. Has she worked with the Sedgwick County Medical Society to get the word out and work with those customers? Because I'll tell you, just because it's in the news, it doesn't mean that it's getting to the people who are gonna make a difference. The water bill comes in, it's paid by accounts payable, nobody's really paying attention. So it's gonna take a concerted effort, in my view. What about the Catholic Diocese of Wichita? Huge campuses all over town. Are folks communicating with organizations like that that are big users?
I know that they have reached out specifically to big users. And on top of that, we have been talking about this, I believe, going back as late as or early as January this year, saying, hey, the effort needs to be there, conservation effort needs to start now. So the message is not new or sudden. We've been talking about it for a while. So, but yes, some of the larger customers we talked directly with, I know WSU reached out about some of their areas that they water, and so there's that communication is happening.
Well, it'd be helpful to know, like, if this is, because I think there's gonna be, supposed to be updates through the local media and stuff like that. It'd be helpful to know if it's actually working, give some of your victories. Yes, WSU has reduced theirs, or yes, the Diocese of Wichita. I mean, because otherwise it just feels like this burden is on us citizens with yards, which is a segue to my next thing is, tier 2 and 3 proposed revised rates. It says that only 18% of residential customers reach tier 2. And that's maybe true, residential customers, but I don't think that's individual homes. How many of those are apartments where tier 2 isn't really going to change, right? So, these percentages can look low, like only 18% of residential customers reach tier 2 and only 2% reach tier 3. But I don't think that's an accurate reflection of people who have houses that have yards.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what that is, because that's probably a bigger number, and it's probably why they picked this number. So it looks low, like it's not impacting a lot of folks. And I attend city council meetings, and I have been conversations that increasing the mill to make up for future budget deficits, right? And so that's a lot that they're putting on citizens. And I just want to be very vocal that I don't think the communication going out and the successes has been there. I don't think measurements are good. I don't think there's much in the way of context for measurements. Like they talked about how low the lake is this summer, but compared to what? I mean, I know it's low, but is it always, frightfully low in summer and then it comes back? What's the context? Is it low compared to summer to this like winter of the prior years, or is the percentage comparable, right? So
A lot of that information, that particular information's out there available on the Corps of Engineers website, where you can see daily and see some of that. But as far as I know, I think it's the lowest it's been in 10+ years.
yeah, no, and I understand that, but I'm just looking for the context, right? It's probably always lowest, during the summer, right? But how does that compare to like the spring or the fall?
That's all very seasonal. It depends on what
No, I
time we get the
understand
temperature.
that, but if you can't look at it historically, are we, my concern, I feel like this is a bit of a money grab, actually. I feel like it's a bit of a.
I can tell you that the tier 2 and tier 3 rates adjustments, I believe that's been tabled for now. So since that workshop,
Okay,
I can't tell you how long it's going to be tabled or whatnot, but I don't think it may not be in
We are in tier 2 as of Sunday. Correct?
state. She's talking about tier 2 and 3
Yeah.
water rates. Yeah.
So everything did between stations here. Well, you know what might be productive then for this conversation is since we just entered phase 2 Sunday, and the goal of phase 2 is to have data in 2 months for reduction, is that after this 2-month period, we have a report back to the DAB, because that's when they should have any information to see if this current policy is working. Your other challenge is going to be that in phase 2, you brought the medical facilities. All those facilities are exempted. So besides just a higher tier rate, incentivizing them to use less, the idea that they would self-report and things like that, it's going to be hard.
medical facilities are exempt,
I think that's what I read in the news.
all their
Medical
yards.
system.
Well, for their irrigation system and that type of stuff, yes, but I mean, in terms of just usage, no, it has to do with the irrigation part. So,
So they're exempt on their irrigating, they can have nice green lawns, but we.
no, they're not exempt on their.
Oh, okay.
irrigating part.
Okay, all right. And then just one more thing and I'll get off my high horse about this. So again, when the head of this department was here, I'm sorry.
Please.
Oh. Anyway, car washes, I asked about car washes, because they're popping up all over the place. And he said that, you know, there are requirements that you have to have, whatever it is, 60% recycling of their water. Right? But he also then said that there's no mechanism or inspection process or anything that goes out. Maybe it's 60% and they pass their inspections initially, but then there's nothing ongoing to make sure that they stay within compliance. And I think that's something that should be remedied PDQ.
I mean, maybe the Eagle reported it wrong. But there's a report for phase two, the quote is businesses that are dependent on water, which includes hospitals and car washes, are exempt from the restriction, as well as food gardens that are watered by an irrigation system. But you bring up that point, though, brought up makes me think of something else, which is the reason, because some cities actually divide policy on car washing as well. And so, but what they usually don't do is restrict the commercial car wash with the logic, the hope that, and the business interest that they are going to be more efficient in watering their house. So if there is further discussion, as much as that puts more pain on the resident, if there is any policy alleviation to let residents have more irrigation freedom by accepting a compromise where maybe you can't wash your car at your house, then you can't have more irrigation options. I know that's been implemented in some other cities to alleviate the water use and focus it on the irrigation with the logic, like a lot of California cities do this stuff that commercial car washes would be more efficient. So it's something else during this phase.
And that's only if we can prove their efficiency, you know, because if they're no longer in compliance.
Are there questions from DAB members and comments on this for Public Works?
I have just one, then this is getting down to the nitty gritty, but I'm just wondering, is there any way to enforce anything concerning? I see places, both residential and commercial, that do a fantastic job of watering the asphalt. That is such a criminal waste of water. Is there any place where, is there anything we can look for, can look toward, can recommend to tell people, you know, don't do that?
So the phone and that reporting app would be a good place to start. I know even in the non-drought, restriction timeframe, we got those reports at times. People were watering the sidewalk or yes, as you said, water in the street quite a bit. And I know there's been times that staff has gone out and reached out to that business and say, hey, we had a report of this, maybe try to monitor and whatnot, but try to look at that business about making those adjustments. And a lot of times they just didn't even know what's happening because they run in the middle of the night perhaps.
And I know the Y was doing this and, I don't know how those watering devices work. If you can set it where it only goes these degrees and not that degree as far as the way it's sprayed. And I noticed too, there's something about how high you can shoot the water, and to keep that down low is there any enforcement mechanism?
I know when it comes to probably like the sidewalk area and whatnot, there's more enforcement on that type of deal. Someone who, sprays it in the middle of the air just to have the wind push it everywhere else. I'm not sure on that, except for just, hey, reporting if it is spraying out in the street a lot. And we, like I said, we do have folks that have gotten in touch with businesses and whatnot and said, hey, this has been reported to us. Take a look.
So using that little reporting app will,
Sure,
okay,
yes. Mhm.
when we see one.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments from DAB? Any questions, comments from the public? Yes,
You guys just read the water meter once a month, don't you?
Yes.
They only come by and do the neighborhoods once a month. I'm just wondering what kind of feedback you will be getting if people are watering. How do you know when people are watering in a neighborhood if you're only checking once a month?
So we're gonna have to rely on the public's help quite a bit with that. And then once there is, say, a report, again, it says that customer will get notified. They'll receive a notice that you're watering outside of the times or whatnot. And then there becomes a lot more active follow-up with that to ensure that they're following it. As I mentioned, driving by and taking those meter readings, they can find out, it can go up to, I think, 45 days or so of previous usage. So, once a report is made, there would be more active follow-up in terms of making sure that they are reducing it. So it would be special trips, in other words, to go out and confirm.
Is the second tier above the 10% of the winter average? Is that what the second tier is?
I believe that's what the tier 2 water rate
Tier
is.
2,
or,
yeah.
yeah.
Because, I mean, we don't have an irrigation system at our house. And yet, and my wife only waters flowers but we still go over 10% all the time. Are we gonna get a note from the city because she's watering her flowers? I mean, we have a brown yard.
Or a little vegetable patch.
Well, we don't even have that.
So the vegetables, I think the vegetable gardens were exempt, I believe. Let me get back to you. Let me try to find that out.
I would ask, that's in that particular situation, if a citizen does get into that rate for what's the appeal process for them to say like, hey, I'm actually watering something that's exempt, like you just mentioned, so I shouldn't be at these rates. Is there a streamlined process that's convenient for citizens, or is it more just getting in touch with Public Works?
Getting in touch with Public Works, get in touch with the building service. Just for that.
Thank you.
If I don't know, if this could be a cost prohibitive item as a part of the educational component, but if there is some way to include on the current, on the bills, if there's enough space without having more paper printed, what those exemptions are, because someone might get their bill and see their rates higher and not realize they are using it in accordance where they can challenge. And if there are only like 1 or 2 exceptions for residents, like vegetable gardens and things like that, if that can be communicated better on the bills or anything like that, it would be good for someone to realize the money that they could be saving. Yes.
A couple questions. So what if somebody put it to me like, well, what's the difference in bringing the bucket from in the house full of water to water your yard versus watering the yard from the hose outside?
There's no difference. It's using the same water source, so.
Right. But somebody might just not be seeing you use the hose. Or I mean,
I guess that's possible.
okay, earlier you said vegetable gardens for irrigation systems. Is that different than individual citizens with small vegetable gardens without irrigation systems? Is what it sounds like in the last 5 minutes versus what you said earlier.
No, what I've got here is a note here. It's food bearing gardens, residential and commercial.
Okay,
Are exempt.
thank you.
Any more questions or comments from the public? You have a comment? Yes, sir. No, really. Yes.
I moved here from Phoenix 2.5 years ago after decades of hearing water restrictions. They don't have them, but now we are. Comment.
Well, maybe we can look at Phoenix. Yes.
Are the fees, are they like daily assessed? Like once you kick over like $100, that like you get the $50 from the $100, is it daily?
It's for each violation.
Okay.
So if you're doing it daily, that's a daily.
That get your attention.
Yeah, all right. Any other questions, comments from the public? Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
We're gonna move to without objection, we'll receive and file all city reports and move to the board agenda. We will start with board updates, issues and reports with Chelsea. Any to report?
I don't have anything.
I just want to share that I had the opportunity to hear working with the helping distribute grants that the city has for various things. And I wound up with a couple of concerns, but one of them is that, for example, Colvin is, one of our most needful district, but that school, the elementary school there has been getting a grant. And the grant is actually given to another city entity, but it almost didn't get it this year, and it's for after-school care. And in an area like Plainview, after-school care is not personally affordable by many of the parents. And I have a deep concern that next year they may not get it, because there were two of us that kind of stuck our heels in the ground and we managed to keep it for this year. But that's an issue that I would hope the public would get behind, looking at after-school programs that are available, yes, in needful areas, but even more so in particularly needful areas. I mean, I'd like to see it for everybody. I'd like to see it there. But education is suffering now. They're not able to spread a whole lot more. And I just hope everyone is aware and share the news that we need to look at how to possibly finance after-school care for primary students. And in fact, it came up how that can help support the idea of kids not becoming involved in gangs, because they've got other things that direct their interest and enthusiasm. That's about it.
Wichita Wagon-Masters will have their annual chili cook-off, big party, September 28th, Saturday, high noon, Napa Park. If you haven't been, it's a fun annual event that's been going on for years, where for $5, you get an all-you-can-eat chili tasting kit. And all these teams compete together, from nonprofits, businesses, actual teams, and everyone's welcome to enter. You can get more information on how to enter at wagonmasters.org. And it's not just a big party, it's for a good cause. All proceeds go to the Good Life Grants ran through the Wichita Community Foundation, which support nonprofits in the community that are often smaller or upstart that cannot often apply for the larger grants. And so it's a great resource that continues to grow. In spite of us doing our best to not raise the $5 tasting kit prices continually each year with inflation. So
Will there be a beer truck on site?
there will be beverages
This
on
is
site.
pivotal.
On site, live entertainment, kids zone, and and a 50-50 raffle. So that you can win as well. So that's September 28th. Look forward to seeing everyone out there. Thanks.
So September 28th, I love that. So, and Cameron, I don't know if this is for you or if it's something that we need to vote on, but there's a lot of great things that go on here in District 1. And it would be helpful, like if we got an email, like these are the things going on in the week, rather than just getting them piecemeal. Because like this opening or the ribbon cutting, whatever, for the new substation, August 15th, just having, these are the things coming up, or even for the month. It would be so helpful just to get them in one fell swoop, to get them into the calendar.
Anyway, are they on the DAB sends out, or District 1 sends out their newsletter? Did they include the events? I'm sorry, recently I haven't noticed.
The events for the city when it comes to like different organizations. Usually the policy, what I've been told, and I'll double check, if any event like costs money, can't advertise it. That way that city doesn't look like they're asking people to spend money at certain So I'll check again, but that's the reason a lot of events that have any type of entry fee or can't be publicized through the city channels. But I do try to publish it and print it out, put it out for people in the front. But as regards to newsletters, I can't put it in the newsletter.
Can you send it to DAB members just as a communication?
On anything I find out, sure. Yeah, I can send it to you
If
guys.
you do that, then we can put it in our Facebook.
Maybe to make that at the very least, what we could do is maybe there's just like a little one pager for each meeting, which includes the ones that we're announcing, but anything that you come across that we can be aware of. And then I don't know, because I know sometimes it wouldn't be on the city newsletter, but I know you'll sometimes contact the neighborhood association heads. I
Mhm.
don't know if that, since that'd be a direct communication of just being like, here's a series of events for the neighborhood association heads if they're interested in, to pass on. If that is a loophole option, that then can provide additional information and outreach for those events.
For sure.
It's well, kind of on that topic, but I didn't realize, I didn't see anything on social media about the breakfast on Saturday, the dad breakfast,
I posted it.
so I missed it. I mean,
I couldn't
just-
find it. I
went to-
looked for it. I couldn't find it.
I went to Brandon Johnson's Instagram because he usually, puts the flyer
Mhm.
and I couldn't find it. So, I figured maybe.
It's on the District 1 page. It was posted twice, and then it was also in the newsletter.
All right, well, then that's not it. So, recreation, well, the same city council workshop where they talked about the drought response on July 23rd. There was a presentation, and I just want to bring this to everybody's attention. For those who don't know, and I didn't know, there's a Wichita Parks and Rec app. And it is chock full of information and things, so if you didn't know about it, I encourage you to download that app. Obviously, it's free. There's things on aquatics, athletics, camps, evolve parks, classes, events, recreation, and rentals. A lot of stuff on that app. So if you don't have it, you might want to consider getting it. And then I'm asking my fellow DAB members for your support once again. Several months ago, I brought up that there has been traffic citation data analysis directly from the police department and from a police department study that they asked Dr. Michael Berzer to do. And it's the traffic citation data analysis that shows that Black and brown people are stopped at a much higher rate according to their percentage within the population. And we've asked before that the chief comes and talks to us, what's being done about that to turn that around, and they didn't have it. A fella came and addressed some of the topics, but it wasn't the chief, and he didn't address some of the thornier issues like this. So I think in this district, and certainly, I mean, there's Black and brown people all over Wichita that I care about this district, and it's stunning difference. So it's like for us to have to come in and address that, and what's being done to change that.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder. Just make sure, because I thought that was done,
Yeah.
and that already happened. So it sounded like. Sounds like
Councilman Johnson said he reached out to get something scheduled for last meeting and didn't hear back potentially.
Yeah, well, he's
Okay.
been asking for this since it first came up much earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And said the chief was gonna come and address all the dams, but then that hasn't happened. I think it turned into this crime information center presentation that's being done in each district, but not necessarily at DAB meetings. So yes, and no, we've not heard back.
And that's good to bring up, because I remember that meeting, it sounded like it was obviously going to happen.
Yeah.
That the chief was wanting to do that and would be doing that.
Yeah.
So I just have to share that if you're getting overwhelmed, but you want to learn more, the Wichita.gov, you can go and apply to be part of the Civic Engagement Academy. It starts in September on Monday nights. It is unbelievable what you will learn about how the city works, and then it connects a lot of dots. And then it puts you into like actionable, you feel like you have a different. Civic Engagement Academy. I would recommend.
Reminder tomorrow, let's get out and vote. We got good news from the ACLU. There were some restrictions put in place to stop voter well, registration.
Interference?
Hmm.
Interference or?
However you want to, whatever adjective you want to use. But right now, there's a stay on it, and so we can, anybody that wants to get out and register voters, you can without feeling you're gonna get a citation or a fine. And so I just want to encourage everybody to register to vote and to vote.
Okay, I guess, yeah, what you're saying is that there's no restrictions on your provisional ballot, meaning that if there's a hiccup when you're checked in and there maybe you did not take your voter reg, things like that, you're still able to vote provisionally, so that it's a, if it is a very close election, then that provisional ballot does get assessed.
So that's one of the problems, but I was really talking about registering people to vote. And if you're not sure if you're registered, I encourage everyone to get on vote.org, call Central County Elections, call the state. And just make sure that you're registered to vote and that you know where your voting location is.
Just a couple of updates. So I know that partner rec gave their update earlier today in a written form, but Corey Lyons, who many of us had the opportunity to interact with, is leaving the city after 9 years. And so I just want to celebrate Corey. He's not here tonight, but I think it's really important. I think so often staff come before us and we have all these hard hitting questions for them. And that's our job, but also to celebrate the staff who do incredible work to keep the city moving too. I know Parks and Rec does phenomenal work, not just for District 1, but all across the city. And many of them, because the department has been short staffed and bouncing around all over the place. And I don't know about y'all, but I love my Parks and Rec. I think it brings quality of life to our city. And so it's important for us to recognize those phenomenal leaders who do the unsexy, non-glamorous work. And many times we don't get to see that. So if you see Corey Lyons, or if you want to find his email on the city website, I'm sure you can shoot him a note, congratulate him on 9 years and wish him the best in his future endeavors. Also, the Humanitarian Awards banquet hosted by Humankind Ministries is coming up on August the 24th. That organization supports our houseless population. I know that, again, this district had a lot of conversations surrounding that population with the emergency winter shelter. So there's a way to proactively support that population by getting involved and showing up to the event, maybe learning about ways in which we can get involved and or new ideas that we can implement. And then last but certainly not least, we weren't able to be there today because of the conflict, but League 42 had the Jackie Robinson statue unveiling, which is a really big deal. That organization does phenomenal things for our young people. It gives them the opportunity to learn leadership skills from baseball. And speaking of young people, I see a lot here today. Thank you for being here. I know that it can oftentimes not seem like you're learning a lot, but 5 years, 10 years from now, you'll be able to show up in this space and run this place if you're here today. And there is a youth DAB board member role on our district advisory board. So if any of y'all are interested, come and shake the table a little bit. We need it from time to time.
Can I just share that I didn't know what was really okay to share, but it is Parks and Recreation that does the grant for Colvin Schools after school program. And people writing a grant request is a lot of work. And somebody did that. It's just really a lot to be honored for.
And you know what? I want to thank you for your work on that committee because that was always one of my concerns is that the organizations that really need the money get overlooked. And so it sounds like you did your due diligence.
We don't get our heels.
Thank you.
We see and file those, and without objection from the board, looking at the public agenda. If we find the board into the zoning case, it would like to give an opportunity for anyone with an off agenda item that's not related to the zoning case to speak right now. Yes.
Good evening, members of District 1 Advisory Board. It's been a very informative meeting for me. And I'll probably hang around because there's a few of you I would really like to speak to. My name is Harold Schleichweg. I live in Delano at 351 North Fern Street. I'm here tonight because I'm chairperson of the board of IC2 Trees, which is a nonprofit and tax exempt organization dedicated to restoring and maintaining and growing Wichita's declining tree canopy. Our tree canopy is the first line of defense against climate change and the havoc that it will wreak in our neighborhoods. We cannot afford to allow our city's tree canopy to suffer neglect and loss. We know the many benefits of welcoming shade trees. They cool our sidewalks and park lawns. Trees absorb carbon, give us life-sustaining oxygen. Trees filter pollution from our air, and if planted near residences, lower utility bills. Unfortunately, the city manager has ordered that no new trees be planted by the park department this fall to contend with the current drought. This means no new street trees, no new trees or shrubs in Wichita parks, even when dead or dying trees are removed. We understand the need to respond to the drought emergency, and we have been assured that the young trees recently planted by the Park Forestry Division will be maintained. However, we also recognize the serious need not only to maintain Wichita's shrinking tree canopy, but to expand it. Not to do so is like eating our seed corn at a time of famine. In 2022, the city of Wichita partnered with NASA to study the relationship between heat, trees, and environmental justice. NASA's final report, November 17, 2022, identified 17 census tracts at elevated risk to vulnerable citizens from heat due to inequitable distribution of the city's tree canopy. Beginning this past spring, the city embarked on a vigorous program of planting trees in or near these urban heat items, including in District 1. The small but measurable progress the city has made on this issue is now jeopardized. Alfred McDonald was Wichita's director of park and forestry in 1924. He recognized the crucial importance of trees to promoting Wichita's long-term success. At a time when Wichita was roughly the same size as Hutchinson is today, he reported that Wichita's park and forestry department was planting 1,000 trees a year. Writing in the City Manager magazine 100 years ago, McDonald's message is relevant today. Quote, shade trees not only add to the beauty and appearance of the city, they make the city a more healthful place in which to live. Shade trees are the greatest factor we have in ameliorating the intense heat of our summer months. ICT Trees is also concerned about the discussion of closing some Wichita parks. The Wichita Park System is already rated as below average in a survey of parks in the 100 largest American cities by the Trust for Public Land. But a bright element is a highly positive rating for the number of city parks with easy access to residents of low to moderate means. We know that neighborhoods love their parks. Now is the time to show your support. The City Council will hold an evening meeting to hear from you about the proposed 2025 budget on Thursday, this coming Thursday, August 8th. Other regular council meetings where the budget will be discussed are on Tuesday, August 13th, and also I think the last meeting is August 20th. And those are day meetings. One is Thursday's evening, which allows us working folk to get there. Follow the schedule of city council meetings and attend and speak up when park and forestry budget is under discussion. Contact your city council member. Their email address is listed on the city website. Let the mayor and city council know you support your parks. And while you're at it, put in a good word for planting trees. So that may, some questions may arise. I don't know if you want me to answer them or not.
I have a little question for you. We've planted a couple trees.
Yes.
Since in the 30 odd years we've owned our home. And we've lost more than we've planted, unfortunately. But I've been reading that there are certain techniques you can use about watering deep, like driving PVC into the ground and pouring water into something like that. Do you guys publish techniques for caring for trees?
We haven't specifically addressed that, but if you go to your local hardware store, they have something where, you know, this, and it's made out of metal, not PVC, but you can put it in the ground close to it uh, where the trees,
Yeah, what I'm looking
The
for is
drip line.
something that's kind of published that I can tell people, go look at this, go look at this and try that.
I would say call the Sedgwick County Extension Office. And you can talk to them.
Yeah, I'm working with, I'm trying to get them to do more.
I have 5 water barrels too. Now, I don't use those for my trees, but for someone who brought up water. My grass is brown, it's Bermuda, and it,
Who cares?
yeah. And in the neighborhood I live in, nobody that I know of waters their grass. So that's really not an issue.
And that's,
But I have trees and I am gonna water that are relatively new.
are you guys, in any way promoting rain barrels?
I think the entire environmental community in Wichita is promoting rain barrels.
But I mean resourcing for folks, so okay, they can get one over here.
Wichita water barrels, if you go to the website, the guy will come out, he'll sell you a water barrel, he will install it. And it'll cost more to install it than to buy the water barrel. But the city will reimburse you the cost of that water barrel, which last I checked was $75. And I will tell you, when I got a half inch of rain, when we got a half inch of rain a few weeks ago, my water barrels at that point were dry, they were all full right now. So that was enough to fill up those water barrels.
Well, we do really well with water barrels because we have really steep roof and we have like 5 things that do like this.
Yeah.
So there's not much rain, but we get it all.
And it's a really good way to have water available for use on things like gardens and things like that. And I, I carry a bucket, I fill up with water, and I have a 10-gallon or a 5-gallon, like those paint buckets that you buy at Ace. Take a nail and put it in the bottom of it, and you can set that down and fill up that bucket. And that's how I water a lot of my stuff. We had a drought. I don't know how many people remember back in about 2011 to 2013. It was really about a 3-year drought. It was pretty intense. And I had a new tree, a street tree that was planted by the city. It was a maple. And I kept that tree alive by putting 2 of those buckets out there. And at that point, I was using city water to fill them up. I didn't have the other. But I kept that tree alive through the worst of that drought. Now it's a magnificent maple. And there are ways that use technology that really can cut down on, there are ways that you can measure the soil moisture and things like that I'm exploring right now. So I have 200, I don't know if the whole part of the city that's between the rivers, the Arkansas rivers, we think of ourselves as living on the plains, but this whole area had incredible amounts of trees when the first white people got here. And before they started chopping them off down. And we had walnuts, we had hackberries, we had all kinds of native trees, oaks. Oaks are very good with water. They're very drought.
Slow growing. One thing about the water I will share with the DAB and for anybody that wants to listen. You may have guessed I'm from the South. And I never saw a drought until I got here. But that last drought you're talking about, nobody ever told me you water your foundation. I had no idea you needed to water your foundation until the little concrete block house on a slab that I bought just to be my art studio. It almost, the walls started to fall over. You got to water that foundation. And I don't know how that's going to work now with our. Take your kitchen sink water and dump it out around your foundation. You need to be able to tell that you've watered it. And this building particularly was in clay. And when the clay dries, it just gets dusty and it'll soak from now to Christmas. So it's going to take some effort, but the sooner you start, the better. Just something to think about.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding us about that August 8th meeting. And brought it up yet, so thank you for that. And I think at the very least, it seems practical policy on city property that if there's a dead bush or dead tree, that, I mean, otherwise the money's gonna have to be spent to replace it eventually. And irrigation is ongoing on those facilities as well.
They have told us that the trees that were planted this past spring will be kept, they'll do their best to keep those alive. One of the problems is that we have not, for a long time, been planting trees to replace those that have been removed in sufficient numbers. And that's that plus development, plus a lot of other things that have gone on have reduced the size of the which does canopy. I do want to say, this spring, we sponsored a free tree distribution in 67214 and 67208 zip codes. And we want to do that again in the fall. And we are going to have to address some of the questions that were, and some of the issues that have come up around water here. And I think that's important. So I'm very happy to have heard that discussion.
I think that those trees, I was looking at trees to plant at my church. And some of the commentary, I didn't research it, was that the trees they could get from you, your group, were elms that only had like a 20-year lifespan.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
That's not true at all. In fact, there was a wide range of trees, including oaks and all kinds of other trees.
Oh, okay.
And there was the lace bark elms. There was some of those, but they lived much more than 20 years.
They're good. I researched that one. That's one we put in.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that, because I missed those dates. I'm in the 08, so I look forward to when there's a chance again.
I hate to say this, but if we can do it, we're going to try to restricting the 67214 this time.
Wherever you can do it, I appreciate it.
What we're trying to hit is those census tracts
Right.
that have been shown to be particularly vulnerable. They have elderly population, low income population, and the city's going to have to decide how we're going to keep people alive. This stuff keeps going on. Those trees are not going to help us until 20 years have passed. So fueling stations actually can probably
Thank you for being here. Thank you. We're gonna move to the scheduled item, the zoning case that got deferred.
Before you, do you want to share the updates real
Yes,
quick?
while staff is heading up to the podium, there were a couple of online updates. From Davenport, Davenport's free tutoring with Equity Initiative Inc. K through 12. This is our website to enroll, equityinitiativeks.com. And anything else?
Massive.
Oh yeah, National Night Out. When is National Night Out?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Okay. Thank you, Nikita, for the reminder. Go ahead. Yes. Thank you for being.
All right, thank you guys. Christina Reed with planning staff. Just want to provide a quick update on the report since I last presented last month. So since then, if I recall the discussion directly amongst the DAB members, they were looking for the number of folks who had protested, and at the time it was still in the protest period. So we did not have that information compiled. The protest map, I think I sent that over to you. I only brought my copy of my packet, but if you guys want to look at it, I'm not gonna read off it if you guys want to pass it around. And then the applicant or the agency applicant has also provided a very, very preliminary site plan. And I sent that over and so if you guys want to take a look at this, I only brought like 4 or 5 copies, so I'm happy to give some to the public. I just want to see if the DAB members want to look at it first, or yeah. Would you like your own?
We'll share.
We can share.
Yeah.
this young man.
Can you- Sure. Yeah.
I was just to watch it on.
So those are the updates that I have. The material of the report has not changed. Like I said, it's the protest map that you guys requested and a preliminary site plan, and then the agent, the applicant here, you guys have any more questions from there?
Thank you. It's not like from the last meeting that the applicant was here, so let's, if you were here to speak on this, know what the usual process, we haven't been here before, is staff usually fills in and gives us context, but since this is a referral, we're here right now, to now hand it over to the agent applicant to give a chance to address the DAB. We'll ask questions to the agent applicants, may ask some more questions from staff. DAB will then finish asking questions and it will go over to the public for comment, questions, anything. Once the public has talked, we'll usually, depending on the conversation, give a couple of minutes for response from the agent applicant. And then it will go back to the DAB where there'll be no more public discussion and there will be a vote. So that's the process. And we're now going to hear from the agent applicant.
Oh, sorry, I just want to wrap up and forgot to add, this is actually going to city council this Thursday for their evening meeting. And so the purpose of this is to hopefully provide a recommendation to the council member to then be presented at the city council meeting. It will be a non-consent item for two reasons. One, the recommendation from last month is technically different from that of the MAPC. So if the two bodies have different recommendations, it's automatically a non-consent item to city council. The other thing is that it was protested. And as you can see in the protest map here, the area that is within the protest area exceeds 20%. Therefore, the council members, if they want to make a motion to accept the zone change request, it will require 6 of the 7 council members to vote to approve it, as opposed to the usual 4 out of 7.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So did you want me to provide just a quick recap of the zone change request?
What I am curious, that's not maybe seen in this report, maybe it was brought up last meeting, I apologize. Was there a common consensus that you could share with the protesters, or just their voicing protests on the rationale? Did you receive any written? Because I don't know, I might have missed if there was any written.
Yeah. So in the protest petition form that folks send to technically the city clerk and then the planning department, they don't have to specify the reason for protesting in that form. Prior to the staff report being sent out to the commissioners, I did receive some phone calls and written communication with some of the neighbors there with their concerns for development in that area in regards to bustle traffic, speeding, and just the increased traffic from the proposed development. And last month we didn't really have a site plan, or sorry, the agent did not have a site plan. And he's provided that sense if that, so.
Agent applicant.
I'm Kirk with the email engineering, and I brought one of the owner representatives who can answer some of your questions. It seems like the questions that were unanswered were what exactly is going to be done. We're going for an NR zoning, which limits size of businesses, that type of thing, to more residential. It's 8,000 square feet for retail, and if you do a restaurant, it's limited to 2,000 square feet. And it's still, the total site limit was, I think it's like 6 acres or something, even well under that, so that's not an issue. We heard all the comments, we heard a lot of comments last time about traffic, and what we're doing is we're having this, it's gonna have one entrance to this development, as you can see on the sketch. And that entrance will be right across the street from that, what's the name of that street?
Cameron Street.
No,
Cameron.
Cameron, yeah, we're right across the street from Cameron. So if you pull out of the parking lot, you'll be seeing traffic coming at you from Cameron. You'll see the traffic coming from the east, you'll see the traffic coming from the west. So it's about as safe as you're gonna get with something like that.
a lot of the complaints that people had were the existing duplexes that just went in and, people were backing out into the road and that type of stuff. Here, they will be going in at first. They will see where they're going when they pull out the parking lot. So it really addresses, I think it addresses traffic a lot better than if they were to come in and do some more duplexes, which they could do. They could right now go out and start pulling building permits and continue building duplexes along there. But this, I think, addresses the traffic better than something like that where people are backing out into the street. There will be a requirement for landscaping. Don't know we're gonna water it, but there'll be a requirement for landscaping. And we have a PO that limits the number, what can be done on this. And we listed only 3 things, I think, additional to what is already available to be done on this. And it was retail, which being limited to 8,000 square feet. And a restaurant, which we limited to 2,000 square feet, and personal health, personal care, I guess. Something like a barber shop, that type of thing. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant from that clarification?
I have a question, more so a technical question that has to do with, I guess, the zoning and protected overlay. What has been done to communicate and or engage with the residents who were protesting? Has there been any effort to sit down, meet with them, talk with them, to see if there could be an opportunity to compromise at all? And this is a question that we always ask, just to clarify.
I have not met with any of the residents other than at a data meeting.
Okay.
You have a question is for staff, but are we, just a question, because sometimes I'm already thinking ahead. Or would we be allowed to propose an amendment to this that would restrict it just to the retail, not to restaurant within that category?
You can make a recommendation, because there's a protective overlay in question already. You can make a different recommendation for approval of a zone change, but you could modify one of the conditions in the protective overlay or add a condition within the protective overlay to restrict the site to, so in the zoning code, it would be restricted to retail channel.
Right. Because I could see how there should be staff members that maybe are into the idea of retail, but then also we've had many other cases where we realized once we rezone, provide the use, a new owner could come in under that rezoning and then use it for the other purposes, which can create a different dynamic with restaurant versus a retail. So that's why I'm bringing that up already, and that lets the public know that that is an option as well. If that flavors some of their remarks or something. What we'll do now then is one more chance to open up any questions, and then we're going to turn it over to the public. Anybody else?
So thank you for bringing the representative. I'm sorry, what's your name?
My name is Taysir Prashadi. I'm a representative of the Islam Society of Wichita. We've been a neighbor, your guys' neighbors since 97, 98. So we're looking forward to everything.
Okay,
Happy
I
to
appreciate you being here. We asked for, the representative to come, so thank you. Can you give us just a little bit more insight on what you're gonna do with this space?
Yeah, pretty much the goal is just looking to expand the land that we've had since 96. Pretty much to have a retail specialty grocery store. So it kind of already has like a niche market to it in itself. Primarily for the visitors that go to the mosque, which is located just west of the.
Oh, I can pull it up.
Oh, no, you're good. So it's just west of where the presumed lot is at. So pretty much just a specialty grocery store, or as Kirk mentioned, kind of like a help barbershop kind of thing, to where, taking appointments only.
And with this specialty market store, like how many visitors are you expecting for this? I see your parking lot here. Is this going to be the size that you think of your parking lot? Is this drawing accurate for this?
Yes, it's accurate.
Okay.
The parking is based on the square footage.
Okay.
And what we've shown is, this much square footage of retail, then you have to have so much parking.
Okay.
And it meets the requirement.
Okay. And do you guys have any type of like specialty market store anywhere else in town, or is this just going to be your first one?
Well, so this will be the first within like for this general area.
Okay.
Pretty much we have a vast variety of different cultures and people that within our community in itself. So a lot of the times might not be able to have difficulties in finding certain things, certain remedies that come from like overseas and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it's just to find a convenience for the community.
Mhm.
And then for that, again, it's a small niche kind of market. To where more than likely it's just going to be for the people that attend the mosque that on a regular basis.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you being more detailed about this. And I want to state that as a citizen here in the city of Wichita, we all need to be culturally competent. We all need to respect other cultures and, what their requirements are to be a part of that culture. So I would like to just say as a social worker and as a citizen, I think it's our responsibility to think about everybody in our city and in our neighborhoods and not just, within our own houses, but how we need to ensure that other cultures and religions are respected. So thank you very much for that information.
I think you hit on a good point. I was going to ask the question because I'm familiar when you say specialty, I'm familiar. I've been to the community iftars, I've been to a lot of it, so I'm familiar, but for those who are not familiar with the specialty piece of having the grocery stores or even the barber shops, can you please maybe even share a little bit about that? That's important.
So in terms of barbershop and everything like that, for this, it could be as a barbershop or as kind of like a hair salon type place. With us, within the community in itself, going into the religion side of things, you have different cultural and for the religion in terms of like privacy for the women because they wear the veil and everything like that. So for protecting the honor, it will all be within a concealed place to where women help and assist the women, and then for like the barber, the man with the man, everything like that. But in terms for the specialty, you gotta think about with vast variety of different people have different languages and everything. So having a specialty store to where getting stuff from back home or maybe not finding the means of not having internet or anything like that, or somebody just now coming in will definitely be a great benefit for them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because I think, Cameron, you mentioned at the last stab when we had this, you brought up some really great comments about the culture and how we need to respect the culture. So I just really wanted to touch on that piece for this stab meeting. So thank you very much.
Some questions.
Yes.
So is it definitely just two things, like the personal care services in grocery store? Is that the plan, just to?
That's the goal, just to keep it very simple.
Okay, because it's a big building.
Yes.
It's nearly 100 yards long. So that, how much of it do you anticipate will be grocery store and how much of it will be personal care?
Well, for the personal care, I'm not sure of the square footage that's necessary for that kind of thing. But for the specialty, I mean, you're looking at all different kinds, not only just like spices, but different if you look at a lot of times when we get ideas and everything like that, they call Texas. A lot of our community go to Texas if end up or going to Chicago. So a lot of those places have vast variety of items. So clothing, it's not just for like food or anything like that, but like clothing, scarves, books, everything like that.
Oh, okay, all right. So it's
So
more than a grocery store.
it's more in a
Okay,
sense of just like a specialty market.
Oh, yeah.
So they offer those kind of
Yeah.
And I'm guessing some of this will be needed for like storage and inventory and things like this, in your building to have those items. So then when you can move them to the floor, is that potentially why we're.
But they are also limited to 8,000 square feet of retail per business.
Okay.
So it could be, they could do two smaller retail businesses there. Maybe one is food and one is clothing or something like
Okay.
that.
Okay. That makes sense.
It doesn't have to all be one because you can't, if they didn't do the barber shop or whatever,
right,
you have too much building to do as one.
Okay.
But we'll go ahead and then move over to Thank you all. We'll have a chance and we needed to have you come back up.
Everybody's.
Public feedback. Please address your comments to the DAB, and not to the agent applicant. They'll have a chance to feel what you're bringing up. Any questions?
Do I have to go up there?
Whatever you feel.
Okay, I'll just stay here. My name is Kim Trinchet. I live in the neighborhood, not outside the 200 feet. So, and I'm very respectful. The Islamic Society is great neighbors. I totally respect and appreciate the culture and the things like that. My perspective just continues to be keeping it a neighborhood. So I know that there are these specialty pieces, but we are surrounded by retail on the bookends right now. And so this is directly in the middle of our neighborhood. This comes right out onto a neighborhood street. To somebody who lives there is here tonight. So that's all we're asking for, is just to keep it a neighborhood. We have kids who live in the neighborhood, they're running around. We aren't off on 34th Street all the time or unsupervised because it is dangerous on traffic right now. But we just feel like it's better off to stay a neighborhood. And if we could figure out a way, and I don't know, because the apartment complex, like towards Casey's, if there's any, I don't know if there's any land left or anything, but just this is right in the middle of where we live and where we're trying to raise our families. And that's why we just want to keep it a neighborhood, whether it's people at foods or, something like that. So that's just our perspective.
Yes, and I do too. I respect, you guys have been great. I've lived there since 1998, so almost, yeah. And the place where you want to have the entry is right across the street from my house. So the entry is here and my house is here. And so I think my biggest issue, or one of my issues, is that over the 20-some years that I've been in that neighborhood, I've watched the slow degradation of the neighborhood as the years went on. I think I was over there when the street didn't even go all the way through, which was lovely. And then we got the houses there, we got the apartments, we got the duplexes, and all of this traffic every day, picking up trash out of my yard, every day having to deal with people walking up and down the street all times of the day or the night. My fence has been vandalized with all the traffic and all the people. My neighbor that's right on the opposite side of where the entry would be, Jolene Olson, she just got her windows broken out from people walking up and down the street. So I think you add a store, that's going to be more trash. There's a lot of traffic. I took pictures last week and I sent them to you, Kim. And it's kind of both sides of the street are cars parked all along the street. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And I think someone mentioned, I was on the Zoom the last time, someone mentioned the blind curve. There's like a blind curve. And now that they put the duplexes there, some people are still parking on the street because the duplexes come out so far that they don't have enough parking, enough garage or driveway space. You come around there, it's dangerous. Kids walking, playing, doing whatever, it can be dangerous. I've called the police 4, 5, 6, 7 times with people racing up and down the street. So I get the brunt of it because my bedroom faces the street, where the street is, where all the traffic is. So, and same with my neighbor. So I just want, like Kim said, to keep it a neighborhood so our families can grow up without having, it's already bad enough these days, without having to worry about all of the traffic and the trash and the other kind of things that happen when you start adding businesses. I get the little alerts every 5 minutes, 0.7 miles from your house, there's been a burglary. 0.7 miles from your house, there's been vandalism. I get these all day long, every day. And I think that would just make it worse.
Ken Thompson, is there some way I can click through those pretty quickly? I've got some pictures that I took of retail space within a mile of this property. Cameron City could put them up.
That's loud. Can you give me like 2 seconds?
Sure. I've lived in the area since '88. We predated the highway by 2 years. It was a quiet neighborhood. That went in, they said they were gonna do some landscaping, some put in berms and protect us from the noise of the highway. That never happened. Now that land got along the highway, got a zoning change and a protective overlay 12 years ago to allow like medical offices. And that's what's in place now. Now they want to put in retail space. You can just go through these. These are at 3500 block of Woodlawn. This is at 37th and on Woodlawn. 37th and Rock. 36th and Rock. Hold on just a second. There's two restaurants in there. Go ahead, keep going. 29th and Rock. 29th is Pensman and 29th. There's 6 of them there. Altogether, there is 25 retail spaces within a mile of this property. Go back to 25 empty retail spaces that they could be using and not put retail in our neighborhood. They talked about landscaping. I don't know what the city requirements are, but this is at 3700 Woodlawn. They have a nice hedge there. Next one. Unfortunately, the hedge has become backdrops for advertising. Next one. 3500. Last summer, they had the same hedges up at as 3700 had. The owner of this area ripped them all out last summer. They were perfectly healthy. They filled this whole space about 4 feet tall, blocked the view of the cars. It made for a nice area here. They left trash trees, but they took out the hedge. So I don't know what the requirements are for landscaping, but apparently they're not a requirement that they be left in place after a certain amount of time. They can just rip them out.
Yeah, in South Street, to the requirements for landscaping under NR for this site. In South Street, the requirements for landscaping under this site.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, so they are required to have 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental trees per 40 linear feet of like the width of the lots. And then if they have a certain amount of parking spaces, they are required to do parking lot screening. So like sometimes they'll break up the number of spaces with like a little island and maybe a tree on that, or something like that.
Yeah,
This is required for screening, if that makes sense. Just so that everyone knows kind of what they should
I
expect.
don't know off the top of my head.
Engineers are taking effect, yes, so that will be happening. I want to understand, so.
The question was like, after the fact, they do it all initially and then pull it out,
Then they rip
right?
it out.
Like they pull it out here, in this example that he had, then does the city require that they put something back? Or you can just pass the inspection or whatever and then pull out?
This is a quarter mile from the property.
Right,
This is
these
in
are
the
different properties.
Yeah,
Yes,
I understand, but it's representative of retail space and what happens.
I would
in
like to
retail
stay
space.
focused on this
Exactly.
measure. We've encountered this before where if something's out of compliance, like now residents here, let's say this does pass, you now know there is a required screening. And that if you don't see it or you don't see maintaining of it, you have remedy that the city will require them to maintain it. That is more about reporting to the city as well. So something I want to bring up is when we make a vote under certain clear guidelines, conforming to certain plans. And one of the things we have to be careful with is an apples to oranges of, how many meetings we've talked about needing more actual retail grocery options in Wichita. And the idea that because someone has, even if we did apples to apples, like a restaurant a mile away and a restaurant here, the idea that just because there's a restaurant there will not should not necessarily impact our decision on approving what someone can do with their own property. I would take a guess that any of the properties you showed are not owned by the applicant. The applicant owns the property they're building on, which is connected to their other area. And so, and you have not pointed out any specialty stores around Bilal or specifically what this is for within that mile radius.
They had a specialty store near 21st and Oliver and it closed.
But they're willing to take the risk with their financial
They
investment.
didn't support the store that they had at 21st and Oliver.
But what we're saying is I can't, just because once something didn't work in the past at a different location, doesn't mean that we can use that as justification to vote against that if individuals are willing to work within the code and invest money to try something out in the neighborhood, specifically with something for neighborhood retail, which is specifically to butt up against the residential.
The neighborhood would like to maintain the neighborhood as it is. We have houses, we have multifamily houses, we have places of worship and a school, their school. We're happy with all that. What we don't want is all the traffic and shenanigans that happens when you bring in retail space and stick it in the middle of a neighborhood. 34th Street was a quiet street when we moved in, and it's certainly become feeder streets. People use it to skip 37th to go between Woodlawn and Rock all the time. People don't even live there. Adding retail space that may or may not survive. And then you end up with, okay, here's some retail space. And now they'll add more retail space and more retail. See, we have retail right here, so we'll add some more next to it. And pretty soon they've rezoned the whole area to a whole 1,000-foot strip mall.
Well,
That is
the
gonna
challenge.
affect our
I know.
quality of life.
And the challenge for the staff report, when we look at our zoning in the area, is why the staff report is recommending approval is because neighborhood retail is designed to go into areas like this for mixed use.
It wasn't, the original design was not retail, it was gonna be office space, and that was a special deal just to get office space 12 years ago. You also have a map. I believe it shows there's a super majority of the people in the reporting area that object to these. So there's a substantial objection from the neighborhood.
I'm not trying.
Your
to-
own planning people was not unanimous in, you know, they had at least 4 people that did not like this plan and voted against it planning.
Right.
So
I know, I'm not trying to take away from any of the protests or anything. I'm just trying to flush out the discussion because I understand your issues with the properties you brought up. And so what I do want to say though, because you're bringing that up and that is an issue of concern, if this does pass, there are certain landscaping guidelines that must be followed. And there's additional guidelines on lighting and everything else that the agent applicant has to maintain. And we have been in other scenarios of zoning cases where the neighborhood and the applicant ended up making that connection to have that open communication to ensure that's maintained. And so that, I think that's critical. You know, if it doesn't pass, but if it does pass, that's critical as well. And so that's what I would just bring up.
to me, I mean, we're part of it. He was talking, there's been speaking of respect among people here tonight. And certainly there's not been a demonstrated respect of even the traffic laws on 34th Street. There are a number of, let's say, there's no parking zones in front of fire plugs, in front of, at each driveway entrance to the other place of worship in the 34th and Rushwood. I didn't get copies of it. They're on my phone of 7 cars and no parking zones on during the Friday afternoon services. That happens every Friday is people ignoring the traffic laws and parking in front of the fire hydrants and in front of driveways and in the intersection of Rushwood and 34th. And we've complained and police have been out there and just kind of observing, and they haven't written any tickets, I don't believe. I think they've been trying to fix it recently, but that's been an ongoing problem that seems to be getting worse. But just the disrespect to the neighborhood is a problem. I feel for you having, in the middle of the night or in the evening, in the wintertime when it's dark, you're gonna have headlights shining in your house all the time. People trying to get out on 34th Street, so. I think there might be one picture after this. Yeah, was it?
Yeah, I think that's.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sir,
Most of what I'm hearing is concern about the traffic on 34th Street. Is that right?
a lot of it,
And it's already a problem.
yes.
So do we need to be looking at how traffic needs to be managed for 34th Street rather than concerned about a retail space that's going to primarily be used by church members? You see what I mean?
Well, I mean, to your point, the most of their people shopping at their stores are gonna be from other neighborhoods, certainly. So that we
But
bring
they are,
traffic in.
they're going to be members of a specific religious community
I can
for the
see us
most
going-
part. And you
They have a nice
already
market,
have,
we'll be walking over and see what they have.
yeah, yeah, okay.
But I just as soon have a park.
See, well, we'd all prefer to have a park everywhere.
Was that the last one?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, maybe 3 back.
But I'm just concerned if a lot of us don't want to be thinking about
Yeah, this.
what to do about throughways that need managing, rather than being concerned about the zoning of a specific retail outlet that's supposed to serve a specific community.
37th and Rock, there's a retail space behind my bank that's been sitting like this for quite a while. Again.
Yeah,
I think
but this
there's
is
space
34.
for-
We're
Yeah.
talking about 34. That's where we are.
Are there
I'm in, thank you.
other questions or comments? You got on this?
I just think, I mean, we've talked a lot about respect, and I think you respect one, you have to respect all. And so we're respecting, what they want and their needs. We want that same respect, and we want that same quality of life that we had for the last
36 years.
36 years. And it just doesn't seem like that should be too much to ask for.
Why?
Especially in the time that we have now. We want a good quality of life. And it's hard to get when you have congestion constantly, because it is very congested there. And I think a lot of people think it's okay because they don't live there. If you lived there and you were on that corner, and as the gentleman mentioned in his speech, he was saying the majority of the people that will be utilizing it probably don't live in the neighborhood. And so therefore, they may not respect the neighborhood and the land and the everything that we've had for the last 30 years. They don't understand, the upkeep that it takes to keep our property values high and the things that we deal with every day, all night. They come, they have a service. Hey, let's go over to the cafe. Let's go over to get our, whatever that, you gotta do. But what about all that other time? The things that we're dealing with 24/7 every day with our kids, our families, our pets. That's the only, I just want to have still remain.
We would like to maintain our quality of life
Yeah.
and not as, and not,
Anybody's
because the building's gonna get profit from it and they're gonna have convenience of a store, but then our quality of life is gone.
Respect all.
Oh, I'm sorry, did anyone before you sit down, anyone else have questions or concern? Just okay.
Thank you so much.
Do you mind, can we ask her a question after, let's get someone.
Yes, I just wanted to know.
Oh,
How many, what percentage was there in the reporting area that? Sorry,
24.19%.
24?
Or 18%.
Percent.
Yeah.
Or did you want a hard number?
Well, I thought we had I'm confused.
You have enough protests that they, city council has to do a super
Yeah.
majority to pass.
I thought we had something over 70%.
You only need 20.
Yeah, I understand.
You have to.
So you're the super
Right,
majority.
I understand, but I personally collected. I don't know, I collected signatures and you collected signatures.
You have the hard number, I think that's 24.19%.
There's a difference between number and percent.
Yeah.
Well,
She's
I
counting
understand.
percent.
I understand.
And it covers the radius of that green,
I
correct?
didn't see.
Yeah, that. I have the same question.
Obviously,
That's-
excluding the right of way.
That's 200 feet, that red line, the green line.
So if you're even building. So it's, yeah.
Okay, well, that's. I thought it was 200 feet too.
No, not the top of my head.
Okay, because I measured 200 feet on the maps, and but I wanted, it included a lot of these properties, including the edge of mine. I'm surprised.
It probably just isn't in that boundary.
I'd like to have the country on that. Is that possible?
I think it's on that too. I don't have this book on this.
Family is ready to call on you.
Yes, sorry. Melissa Baden, I'm outside the, 200-foot radius, but I am within that neighborhood. And I just want to say that from my perspective, I would be protesting a retail spot for retail rezoning, no matter where the retail is coming from, whether it is based out of this community or not. So I just want to put that out there, that I would be protesting it because of similar to what Kim was saying. I would very much like to keep it a neighborhood feel, a neighborhood, community, and adding retail when we are bookended, and at that point, we would be squared in, all the way around with retail. I'm curious after, and this isn't a question to you guys, it'd be more to the developers and to, the group that is wanting to rezone. After the last DAB meeting and after the statements of protestation from the community, what other alternatives have been explored? Have any alternatives been explored in order to, just like we're saying, respect the desires of the community as well, the neighborhood? So after so many people came in and asked, or protested this, have any other retail spaces been explored as an alternative option? Because there is also the ability to build more duplexes, which could also increase income and productivity of the community. So I would put that out there. After the last DAB meeting, it was stated that that road 34 is not populated by kids very often because it is a busy street. After that meeting, I started watching, I started looking every time I drive down that road, and it is very populated with kids. We have multiple family homes within the neighborhood, and they will come down the side streets, go on to 34th, and they'll walk down to Brahms, they'll walk down to Casey's, they'll walk down to all of these places that have those very dangerous curves. So I'd like to put out there that kids do often use that road unsupervised. Regardless of reason, they use that sidewalk very often, and cars come flying by there, in which debris also gets picked up by those vehicles. And there are also bus stops on that street. If this was to turn into retail, if it was rezoned, if it was passed, I would like to know where to submit those checks and balances for traffic. What are the resources for us to be able to do that? Because I understand what you're saying, in terms of, the regulations are put in place, they can do what they would like. And then at that point, it's up to us as community members to then reflect on that. I have not delved into the websites, but I can say in past, historically, it's not been easy to navigate, and that may have changed, but I would like some more direct resources to be able to ensure those checks and balances. Because there are a lot of times that going through those curves around there, it is very, very difficult to get through, inching by, because both sides of the street are fully packed with vehicles parking lots are fully packed with vehicles. Side streets are getting more and more packed with vehicles. So I would like to know that, just as a district.
I want to immediately address the question about accountability with the code. Could you address that on the process for whether for this or anything else in the neighborhood that might?
Yeah, absolutely. Are we talking about, maybe like landscaping or what do you mean
Anything where, I guess, well, let's specifically talk about, let's first talk about a case like this, where it did pass, something like this did pass, and there are lighting or landscaping maintenance concerns with code. Who do they contact? Do they reach out? What's the process?
If a concerned citizen feels that they are in violation of their protected overlay, or just any provisions of the zoning code that are not specified within the protective overlay, we do have a division called neighborhood enforcement or zoning enforcement, and either of them, like if their grass is too tall, if the landscape ordinance isn't being executed the way that it was approved in plans, or if they're concerned that there's not enough trees, they can go ahead and give that number a call. 316-660-9220.
Can you do that a little slower?
Oh, I'm sorry.
316-660.
9220. Their neighbors are enforcement.
And that's all for neighborhood enforcement for landscaping and other
Anything with protective
provisional overlay?
Yeah.
Protective overlay, or just any possible zoning violations. I would also actually no, because remind me, is the landscaping in? Well, because no landscaping is it in the protective overlay? Because it would be zoning enforcement. Yeah, okay, so zoning enforcement. We have a lady in zoning enforcement, if it's again a violation of, sorry, if it's a violation of protective overlay, it would go to zoning enforcement. If it's the landscape ordinance, that's not within the protective overlay, that would be neighborhood.
It's really, if it's anything that
Yeah.
isn't right, you know, if
Yeah.
there's something with the building facade or whatever, you go to MABC, the building department.
Yeah, and there's 660-1840.
But the only time they do anything is if somebody calls and complain. Don't expect them to drive by and say, wow, this is out of compliance, and do anything, because that's not how they operate.
Now, what about the little app where we go in and say, you know, there's a tree laying on this, laying in the street?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a tree fallen and it's in the public right of way or poses a dangerous threat, that would be park and rec, and I think they have an emergency line. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that one.
Do you know about the app?
I think, the next question is that if you did submit through that app or make a ticket through that app, would it get passed along to building?
To who it needs to go to.
So that there is what's that?
I've forgotten. I'm gonna have to, we can find it.
Because there is
some-
an app that is pretty, I've used it myself, that is pretty streamlined whenever I've had issues in my neighborhood.
It's easy to
And so
use.
that's good to know that instead of needing to directly
That
get a
it will
phone
go
number.
along, because, yeah, not
You
being
can-
well versed in this,
yes.
I would probably
I'm
call
gonna
it.
try to.
It's called C-Click Fix.
See,
Like, C as in.
If you go to the city website,
C-Click Fix.
you go to the city website, they actually have a thing on there that says, download our app.
Also, if you forget any of that, you can just reach out to Cameron.
Gladly share with all of you.
And would that also address then the traffic within other areas, or is that that would be separate because that's part of the?
So
Well-
would you, would you be requesting a traffic study? Is that what you, or you looking at, like, if you wanna do a traffic inquiry, that's traffic engineering, I don't know their number.
I think
Okay,
the-
so what I would like is I would like for someone with authority to be able to observe the traffic flow, the traffic restrictions, the blockages, the parking outside of parking lots. And I don't know, I haven't looked at signs, mainly because I'm too worried about someone opening the door and me running into them. So I've not looked at the signs specifically as to whether or not those are restricted parking zones and they can't park on both sides of the street. But I would like for someone to be able to observe that and then report on it, whether something can be done or can't be done, and then relay that to the neighborhood. That would be most helpful. So I don't know what that would be.
I know that on the app, I know that it's worked for me in the sense that like, because I'm the only one in the city who's authorized to remove graffiti from historic buildings. And so I got a notification from someone like who's overseeing the app and she's like, hey, I know you're the graffiti remover. Someone posted this complaint about a graffiti on a historic building downtown. I took care of it. So, okay.
So maybe ask a little text and ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what you may, and please tell me to be quiet. if That's the
Right.
case. So you're wanting to know if there are speed limits that can be put in place or some sort of restrictions that can be in place even after these studies occur. I mean, a study for the sake of a study isn't what you're wanting. You're wanting to change some things to prohibit the double-sided parking as well as the speed limits within the neighborhood and things of that nature.
Well, they
Is there-
recently added 8 new 30-mile-an-hour signs along
Okay.
34th and 36th Street. So that has to slow people down.
They sped up. Well, we need a camera.
Okay, what about, a compromise or not, maybe not a compromise, but we're hearing the parking concerns, right? And
We'll give it a chance to the agent applicant to come up once we're done with the public. Is that fine? I just want to make sure everybody heard from all the public, all their feedback before we start asking.
Hi.
Yes.
So like, my name's Olivia, and like, I'm going, so, like, I know someone who lives like right there near where there is going to be the strip mall. And if it does happen, and like, they told me like, they like to go play in that field and like play kickball and stuff. But they also like play around that area, but that's from like my acknowledgements, that's like where most of the like speeding and like yeah and stuff. But like there's this open like acre that we could put the strip mall that's near a bunch of other buildings. And it's like it's like pretty close to
The duplexes.
yeah, duplexes. And I thought like we could like do it there instead of like right next to the neighborhood where there's a bunch of kids around.
Next could be an answer to that now from the applicant feature.
What I do, I want to just say really quick that we're giving a civic lesson to these two. They went around and did petitions with us, so this is kind of coming full circle. So we how to get involved to the citizens at a young age. So regardless of what happens.
Thank you for
Great.
being here.
Yeah.
Equal Joseph City Society, I just wanted to,
Yep.
I just want to block them so we absolutely resident, and make sure everyone from the public has gotten their chance to speak or ask any questions. For us to hear, but as well for the agent applicants to hear.
I had something. My name is Charlotte Beckmaster, and I don't live in the area, but I'm right next to it. And I have 3 concerns. One thing is, it really kind of bothered me when we were told that we're not diverse. When I think anybody that knows me knows, I left an East Side school and chose to teach Midtown. I would have stayed there, but my mother was ill, and I needed to take care of her. I'm sorry. And this is real hard for me because my husband was David Buckmaster and he was part of this for years. So it's real hard for me to walk in this building. I'm sorry. I thought it would be better. Give me just a second. He would be so mad. He always said, don't cry when you talk. But this is the first time I walked in. But my concern is 3. I thought they were very diverse. We can ask, we come, we've had a good relationship. I'm a member of Risen Savior Lutheran Church. We have tried to be very good neighbors, so that very much upsets me that was kind of thrown out that we are not being diverse and cultural. Also, I asked Paul Cameron after the zoning meeting and asked if I could take pictures because I don't think you realize how bad the parking is on Fridays. And like Cameron said, when I called him, he said, but it's just Fridays. Yes, it's Fridays, but the year has 52 weeks. And I promise I'm not going to break into the song for rant about that. I could, but I'm not going to because that would be torture. But anyway, we have 52 weeks and it's also each and every time there's Ramadan and another holiday that my friend Dana, who is Muslim, whose husband was the director of practice, had me practice singing. I don't know if it's such a hell. The two holidays, yeah. Yeah, but, yeah. Yeah,
Big celebration.
okay, yeah, big those two celebrations. Those holidays, the traffic is terrible, the parking is terrible, and this is my concern. As a former teacher who gladly taught and gladly loved each and every child I taught. Honestly, I did, but I'm concerned about the parking. I am concerned about the buses letting kids off. Buses come each and every Friday. They come during the time because the population that we're at is a very large population that has a real high density of kids that go to magnet schools. Magnet schools are out during the time that the religious celebration finishes up at the mosque. So it's during that time. They're always out at 4. Jackson and Gammon are out at 4, but we have a lot of kids that go to the magnet schools. And that population, they're out between 2 to 3, 2:30 to 3, all those times. Those are individual school buses. That's my thing. My other concern is how many kids we have at walk. Since the zoning meeting and since I talked to Cameron, I have really counted kids. I've tried to count kids. It's amazing that we have groups. It's like the population, our kids have kind of grown to all be upper grade school, maybe middle school age kids, and I can just guess because I don't stand around and ask them for their IDs. They don't look like the high school kids. About that age, there's a lot of walking, or maybe they have a scooter, or maybe they are. I don't think maybe that really like. That's my concern about the safety of it. It has nothing to do with the culture. It has nothing to do with the fact that there's culture coming in. I'm concerned about the safety. I want to take pictures, like I said, and Cameron's really encouraged me not to, so she's not saying I'm gonna take pictures. So I'm the kind of person that does what I was told and I didn't do it. But if you could see what we see each and every Friday, it is not safe. The area's not safe. It's curvy, it's not safe. It's not safe. It's not safe for the kids that are there. It's not safe for people driving. It's not safe for the buses that are coming. It's not safe for the bus kids. I'm concerned about the added parking, the added people coming and going, and the added cars that we'll have, and that's my concern.
I appreciate your remarks, and please, I hope there's nothing, I don't think any member at this meeting, what I heard was trying to be disrespectful. Any comments around clarification on cultural sensitivity and respectability was to clarify the specialty nature of the store when other retail areas are in the area. So please, you're fine. Please don't take it any personal, and I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you sharing those remarks.
Well, I go to school at Independent, and I drive, when my parents drive me to school, they drive me down there, and that road is going to be right in front of the duplexes that we go off and onto the main road. But every morning we have to, for school, we have to pass buses, and we always have to stop because there are 2 apartments and stuff. But when we come back from school, we go down that same road, and we have to go past we go down the same road every single day. And if we keep I don't want to be late for school, and sometimes I have after school sports, I have to I do softball, and I have to drive home, eat, change, and then go to my softball game. But I don't want to be late for my softball game, and I don't want traffic to make that. Yeah.
So, other members of the public with questions?
I do have pictures that did not say forgot to send me, Christina, if anybody does want to see.
If your dad would like, are you fine passing your phone down for us to see it?
Yeah, if that's best,
Make sure you hit that chance.
Yeah, sweet.
while you're, yeah,
Public?
you can, yeah.
Okay, cool. Just a couple clarification points. Again, before I speak, actually, one, I'm not a part of DAB. I have no influence over DAB. I'm literally almost like their secretary, basically. Just put that out there. I do live in the 200 radius. I'm close. I'm not going to say exactly where. It's kind of weird to put my address out there. A lot of people do contact me a lot. So I don't want to put my address out there, but I am very close, very close walking distance. A reason I told her, just to clarify, not to take pictures is I didn't care about you taking pictures of the field where they're trying to rezone and everything. She said taking pictures of cars. I didn't want to say yes, take pictures of cars, and then something happens and I feel responsible. So that's why I said don't take pictures of like the cars. I didn't want something to happen like you taking a picture of somebody's car, like parts, because I agree with y'all. The traffic's terrible, especially on Fridays. Traffic really does suck over there. No, like it really does suck. Like I try to go and like get my lunch and it's like a 5-minute lunch only because like I gotta wait, go all the way down. So the traffic sucks. I'm with you. I agree with you completely. I think for me, again, the reason I spoke last time, it did feel a little hostile towards, the population. That's the only reason I spoke last time. Not saying, calling out any names or saying anybody in here did it. There was just a hostile tone. So that's the only reason I spoke. But I do live it near there. And speaking as just a person living in the radius, I am for it. I do come from a Muslim household, so there is a little bias in there, I guess. I did tell my mom, she said, Habibi, I can't wait to go down there and go look at it. It was hilarious. But I just was excited to see that there's going to be actual things for a culture represented there. It's just something cool. You don't see a lot of that. I would like to see any of you Google where can I go pick up a hijab right now because mine ripped. Good luck finding one. But I think it's really cool that they're actually even putting a shop or having that idea. I know some of the residents spoke that there was trash. And it just felt like I didn't want the connotation to be, well, we put these new shops here and then that's going to increase trash, it's going to increase traffic. Possibly other problems. I do see a large, I walk every morning or run sometimes around 5 to 6 a.m. I do see a lot of homeless people coming from that. And like that Bronze area is where they come from and they walk through that neighborhood and there is trash. So I don't know if that's part of the reason. I don't want to say that it increased it because of the mosque, but I do see that a lot. I also do want to say that I agree with the traffic. If there could be something done with the parking or the traffic, that'd be great. Because that is a big issue. And like, again, especially hearing complaints from the neighbors that it's a big thing, obviously. But again, looking at it, I don't want it to be like, oh, there's going to be a new shop or something. And then that means that there's going to be more trash, more people walking. A lot of the trash and people walking that I've seen are going way past the mosque, going somewhere else. And the people I see speeding, I've never seen somebody speed and like cut into the mosque. Oh, I got to make mosque on time or service on time. I mean, a lot of people I see speeding going past it or trying to cut through the traffic on 34th Street. And so they're going way past it. I've seen people not going in that area speeding. So that was the only thing I just wanted to bring up. But again, I do agree with the traffic. If something could be done to mitigate that, fix that. But the shop idea, I do love it and I do support it just as a citizen. Again, not speaking as DAB member or anything like that.
May I comment? We have, the neighborhood association has asked several times for stuff to be done and it's never been done. I mean, several times. I'm talking before my husband passed away, it was asked. Before, can help me, before, I don't know if the apartments are called. Remember, the apartments that they were maybe gonna put that hotel, and they put the apartments that are for WSU students.
Oh, across from Casey's.
Yes, and those, before that was done, we asked about that. So we've asked several times, I mean, we'll continue to ask, we've asked several times if there'd be traffic studies.
Yeah.
But I was basically told, and I think it was myself that was told, I don't believe it was my husband was alive. And I think I was told that basically it's because we haven't been in that field and we aren't influential enough. And I just don't believe that. I just refuse to believe that.
I personally haven't heard anything, and I'm not saying it hasn't happened. Again, I just got this role. So, anything that probably was complained about before, I haven't even heard about it. So if you were to make that request, I'm sure I could speak with Brandon or even speak with the engineering department to get a traffic study done in that area.
It's done, I think most of us would agree we'd like it done on Friday afternoon.
Yeah. I mean, the traffic study will take place over a period of time. I'm sure she would know more about it, but I'm sure it's over a period of time. They'll see the good and the bad. I know Friday's a terrible day. So I'm sure they'll look at Friday for sure, including throughout the week to see how it looks like on the weekends as well.
It does sound like there's an outgrowth of maybe this discussion, no matter what, as a result of this, there's a number of other issues that have been addressed separate from this zoning case that we as DAB members and y'all citizens, we are all on the same page and we are aware, we hear about it. And so if you ever have issues like this, know that Cameron is available to you, Brandon Johnson is available to you, but also this DAB meeting happens a month ago. And you have the city, you have usually some often someone from work, someone from zoning. And so I'm just saying that worst case scenario, like we are here as well, and each of us have been known to be persistent on issues, including issues that have been brought up through DAB. And so anytime a neighborhood is feeling like something's not working right, they need a study or they want something like that, you know, we are here just as much to be an advocate for you as well on those issues too. Did you have?
I just wanted to say, the biggest thing we do not want to come across is that we are saying that the Islamic Society is bringing in trash. We don't want to make it a cultural issue. And she said it wouldn't matter who was putting this in.
Right.
It's because, so I just want, I'm sorry you felt that way.
Oh, no, yeah.
That's my biggest concern, is I don't want it to turn into a cultural.
Yeah.
Like, we have nothing against you guys
Right.
whatsoever. But I just want to I just want to verbalize that, because it can be touchy, and I'm sorry you felt that way, and I just want to verify that we would be upset about it regardless of who was putting it in.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah, because I was here for the last meeting and I do felt like it was a little hostile. You know, Cameron was speaking and trying to give some, you know, cultural understanding of why they would want to build, you know, a specific retail space. And, you know, someone interjected that and I just wanted to start the meeting off by saying we all need to be culturally competent and listen to each other so we can hear each other's problems. And this is by no means saying that your neighborhood is not diverse. I haven't been in, visited your neighborhood, and I would never make that assumption that your neighborhood is not diverse. My request in starting this was, let's be understanding of what they're trying to do so we can get a better picture as staff members as to what that space is going to look like, which is why I also recommended for them to bring a representative from the Islamic Society to speak on behalf of that. So my apologies if I offended anybody in the neighborhood. That was not my intention. I did not say that your neighborhood was not diverse. I just wanted us to all be understanding, and so Deb could be better informed of what that would look like.
On this one, we're gonna turn it over to the agent applicant. I'm gonna go, I've taken some notes on some of the points here. Hit them. Anybody else in the public have additional comment, questions that haven't been touched on, that could be beneficial to the user? Else, any online?
Yeah, I was about to check just now.
All right, now we'll have the agent applicant come up to the podium again. So a few of the things that came up, they brought up the meeting every Friday. Y'all have anything to say as a part of traffic alleviation? Would actually having these extra spots alleviate some traffic in a way, or what are your thoughts based on this feedback with the traffic concerns?
It would, as opposed to duplexes there, this would make the traffic easier, I think.
My question would be, would there be, can you say that the space is not going to be open and available during services, number one, and number two, could overflow parking from the mosque be asked to park in that space during that time?
So just a few of the concerns. She just stepped out, but yeah. So with the Lutheran Church, I want to hear her to hear this. Very great neighbors for like a lot of the big holidays, allowing us to utilize their parking lot and everything like that. I was board of administration director during the time of COVID. So there was off back and forth helping each other out during the time of closure and everything like that before reopening. So I greatly appreciate all of you as well as the Lutheran Church for being such great neighbors. And I understand the concerns. For myself, I am part of the board. I myself, for Fridays, have been very vocal, and a few other people within the community in regards to the parking issue. And a lot of it is for Friday, yes. For a lot of the bigger holidays, we have two holidays. The one where we see the biggest return of people, over 1,000 people, 1,500 people, is usually after the month of Ramadan. So where with that, we utilize Wichita Hoops. And we rent out all 6 courts to have all the brothers and sisters to be able to attend that. As fellow neighbors, I'm sure you've been aware that we just redone the whole parking lot about some months ago. We're in the works of obtaining bids to have additional parking. I know this is a complete separate. But just know that your voices have been heard. We see it as well. It's a small percentage of the community where it's like, come on, guys, making us all look bad. But within that term, all that has been talked within the boards, within the community, and currently in the process to get that taken care of. Now, of course, in terms of the mosque aspect of things, it is a nonprofit organization. So with that, I'm not quite sure how churches work or anything, but for everything, it's all within donation from the community. So not obtaining any loans or anything like that. It's against the religion to have interest usually. So for that, it'll be freely paid off, not getting a loan or being in debt to anybody. So I just wanted to voice that, that's in the works of everything. But going to one of the questions about the specialty store, having it elsewhere or anything like that. So there's a high, intake of refugee family. Some of them no vehicle or maybe just one vehicle in particular, where the whole family will go and everything like that. So to find a convenience store, maybe after prayer. And of course, we have prayer not just Fridays. We pray at least mandatory 5 times a day, early bright morning, before sunset, and then the late prayer. So Friday is really where the high traffic comes into play because of the mandatoriness of it. So for having something at convenience to where you have a family go, they go to prayer and then they'll just stop by. You're looking at one vehicle and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of like restaurant business, the association in itself has a kitchen to where no matter what, they're getting the food from there. So that's just one point in itself. But with Perth over here, having the knowledge, knowing the codes and everything like that, for us, we just want to do everything right. And then of course, we want to make everybody happy at the same time. So a lot of the comments that's already been in the works, we've been discussing. Some of us are like, come on, so, kind of went off topic.
No, but a lot of these concerns came up were beyond also the.
I mean, for us being right next to the highway, we do get a lot of trash from the highway too. We have a lot of cleanup and everything like that. There are quite a few, people that walk by. For us, it's always open door policy, no matter what. But, we have people that will come, private property and everything like that, go and you kind of spend extra time to where, kind of looks like an inconvenience or, safety or anything like that. But a lot of it, it's not coming from us. I have a lot of people that, I'm sorry, it was Cameron. So what Cameron kind of mentioned, there's a lot of high walking traffic, littering, all that kind of stuff. And then for us, we have the issue of just being right next to the highway, everything being flown, getting stuck in the fences and catching up. So for that, we do a lot of cleanup because there's also a school, which is right next to the highway. And then hearing about parks and everything like that, there was consideration for that to extend. We decided to do the parking lot, and then for the playground kind of thing, I just felt kind of a safety hazard because the land is very narrow, right next to the highway. Playing kickball or whatever, maybe go into the highway, cause an accident or whatever it may be, or into 34th Street where somebody is playing on the grade, avoiding the ball.
So this case in the proposed blueprint, we're specifically talking about the retail and the barber shop. Would y'all have any issue if it was just restricted to that, since you're also would be asking for an amendment to allow restaurant? And I know that would be something that this neighborhood hasn't seen in an application if that is done in the future. So my gut would be, we've been mainly talking about retail here. Is y'all's plan to maybe do a restaurant down the road? Is that why it's in there? Or is it just not a big deal?
It's not a big deal to us. For it, it's just a matter of convenience of having that kind of specialty store, as I mentioned prior. And then just to having in terms of like, self-care, like barbershop and everything like that. For that kind of line of business, you're looking at appointments only. So it's, not like, because it's like any other barbershop. Like, hey, there's my buddy, he's gonna take care of me. I stop in at 3 o'clock, I'm in there at 3:15, and then I'm done. And then the next, guy comes in.
Could you address the question about the open lot near the duplexes to build? Is that one of your lots that was brought up?
So the lot in itself, yeah,
Okay. From the east of the proposed retail over to the duplexes has easements on it. There's a gas line easement, there's electric easement. They can't build on any of that. So that's gonna stay green area.
Other questions for the agent applicant?
Yeah, I do. Thank you for bringing up the parking, the additional parking. I think that can go a long way to helping. But it's just an observation. Why is parking so bad there when the city has and you don't have to answer, but it just seems curious. I live in a high dense church area. And there's plenty of parking in all these churches.
I have an answer for that. City ordinance says that a church or a place of worship have to have a certain size parking lot, depending on their congregation, as it were. They're assuming 4 occupants per vehicle when they size a parking lot for a church. Every vehicle that comes on Friday afternoon has a single occupant. Because a lot of them are coming from work. And then go back to work after service. So you have 4 times the cars that would normally be there for a church or a place of worship of that size. Is the reason that the street is so full of cars. It's that much impact on the neighborhood, especially if they're in the no parking zones.
If you proceed with the additional parking, I think that will go a long ways to help mitigate some of these concerns here within the community.
If they put in the sidewalk.
Is it?
If they put in the sidewalk, right now it's a weedy field and you have to be in the street to get from that space to the.
If we're fine.
I was talking about additional parking, yeah. Yeah, and just encouraging them to move forward with them.
You have a lot of questions that we're gonna have for. Jose, anything else?
No, I just wanted to make sure you feel your question got answered about why. Yeah. You sure?
All right, that's what I make sure. Before the agent applicant goes down, if there's any other members of the public that I think we addressed kind of the big things, it may not be the answer you want, but is there anything that I might have missed in my notes I didn't bring up? Just want to check.
I would like to point out, we're asking for neighborhood retail, which is basically next step up from where we are with a protective overlay that eliminates all kinds of stuff down to, these 3 things are what we put in the application. Nothing else from neighborhood retail can go in there without coming back here again. So it's not like we're trying to do this huge thing, we're really limiting it to what we can do with it. And it also limits the size of the businesses and everything else, which is more appropriate for a neighborhood setting than what you have like over there on Rock Road, where you have the big box stores and everything else.
And I did see your hand. If you do have a question for the agent applicant for clarification, would say y'all should, I would encourage y'all to share a point of contact for the neighborhood. So for after this meeting, if there's something that comes up, or like maybe you have an additional question for what you just heard, because what's going to happen next is we're going to turn it back to the DAB and then have our discussion and then debate. But that communication line, whether this gets passed or not, should be there, I would recommend, for the neighborhood, no matter what. And so maybe that's a benefit, no matter what, with what's happened.
I think my question is probably more towards this general knowledge.
Oh, for zoning for staff?
And that's okay, I can ask.
Okay.
And I will say the mosque was very receptive. I emailed them directly and got back to me in less than 24 hours. So yeah, the lines were there.
One more question. You said the parking, I'm sorry, the parking bids. I know that that's unrelated to this case, but I do think it would address a lot of the concerns that we've heard today.
Yes.
You said that you all are currently seeking bids to add additional parking to.
As a nonprofit, there's a certain requirement that you have to have 3 bids. At the moment, we do have 2, so it's in the works. So. And we're looking to be around, now it's nothing final, but around 60 to 80 more additional parking spots.
In the funding secure for that?
Yes, so, well, so how it works out is, of course, there's guidelines and everything. They'll have to have at least 60%, and this is all, public information for a nonprofit.
I have questions for staff.
Yes.
Who would someone contract for a traffic study? We heard that they've asked time and time again for a traffic study and have not had any success.
Yeah, I mean, the first I can think of off the top of my head would be like Honor of Traffic Engineering. Maybe 12 months on them, but I would start with Mike or get Mike for me.
What was that name again?
Mike Armour, and his last name is spelled like, Armour Road for counties. ARMOUR.
And what is Paul's last name?
Councilman, GUNZELMANE. But I think he's like the director of public works.
No, Paul's the city engineer.
City engineer, thank you.
I would suggest city council member. The city council member can go to the traffic engineer and say, we need to study this.
Yeah.
I mean, here every meeting.
Some additional advocates, so yeah, that's true. Any other questions or comments from staff, clarification to the applicant before we turn it over for deliberation and motion? None, thank you all for being here, and thank all of you all for being here and taking the time and sharing your points and opinions on this. Now we'll open it up. What we'll have now is, it'll be however long discussion with among staff members. At any point, a staff member can make a motion. And if there's a second, we will have a vote on it. So, are there any deliberations or staff members on this?
I just want to say that I'm glad you all came here, no matter how this vote comes out, because we're here to listen to you all. Developers and owners get to go to MAPD and whatever the other acronyms are. And so this is your place for your voices to be heard. And so I just want to just let you all know that I'm glad you came out and I have listened to you and I have heard you. And what is your neighborhood called?
Chisholm Creek something.
No,
It says that in the phone.
it doesn't.
It's the Willowwood.
Yeah, Willowwood, don't say Willowwood, Willowwood.
Willowwood used to go down to Woodlawn, that was the highway is in Home Depot is now. That street disappeared.
Actually, it was listed as K9 Northeast.
That's neighborhood associations, Northeast Canaan, the same thing.
It's relevant to want to bring in from the public, because this is a protest that will necessitate a supermajority. Does that allow members of the public to comment on this Thursday, since it is that?
Yeah, the only way that there would be public comment on the matter of city council is that one of the council members has to make a motion to open for public comment, because it's usually not a part of the process.
Okay, I didn't know if the supermajority vote would figure it out. Okay, so that's a clarification. So if this does go to Thursday's council meeting and you do want to speak on this, make sure to contact Cameron and Councilmember Johnson, so that he's aware of that. So there it is, there's that, you're on record, and they'll probably communicate with you whether to pull it off. Sometimes when there is that 6 vote threshold, I have seen it taken off for discussion. Other comments, questions, Dabs?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I know, I'm sorry, sir, what is your name again?
Ken Thompson.
Ken Thompson. You showed those pictures of the other buildings that had, different signages and landscaping issues, but I wanted it to just reflect for the record that the applicant proposed an amended protective overlay and saying that portable signs will not be permitted. Ground signs shall be monument type. There'll be no off-site billboard signs and no illuminated building signs on the north or the east. And also there's a landscape buffer and you have to follow the City of Wichita's landscape ordinance. So I just think we should, note that the applicant is doing the best to make this fit into, under a residential retail space.
It's been demonstrated that other retail spaces with the same requirements don't get bothered.
Right, and that's why we giving the phone numbers for the,
Neighborhood and zoning enforcement.
thank you.
Is there a motion? Any motion?
Make them look fun.
Is there a motion?
So I'll make a motion. I'll entertain a motion. I would like to make a motion to approve this with the amended protective overlay number 270.
There's a second to that motion.
Second.
There's a second for that motion. Is there any further debate to this motion?
Oh, I missed the motion.
So we do have a motion, I have some recommendations from Chelsea.
And who seconded it? Or-
Tyler.
And so opportunity for any further discussion. None of request on this one, a roll call vote. I'm saying Chelsea, you can do that, Cameron. You roll call voted.
Oh. Roll call voted. Chelsea?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Beth?
Yes.
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 Twyla?
Yes.
Is that Lawanda next?
Because there was a supermajority against it, I'm gonna say no.
And then Michaela. Okay.
So this passes all against except one. This will move to Thursday's council meeting. Again, that emphasizes that point. You are also more than welcome to email each council member as well. Email all the council members separate from giving any remarks Thursday. If you want to give remarks, be sure to reach out and let Councilmember Johnson know. And you can also reach out to family too. Thank you all for being here. And I think that last meeting got to be a lot of it. Thank you.
Y'all still got stuff?
We did.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So seeing that Councilmember Johnson's here, if we're fine, what we'd like, I'd love to y'all want to hear a Councilmember update before we adjourn.
Oh, he's here.
All right, Councilmember Johnson.
You want me to give some?
I sadly, my parents are listening. Thank you so much for your, thank you.
You know what? Came out there.
So I can be semi-brief in my updates. The Jackie Robinson statue is back and it's up. We had a wonderful unveiling. It was packed. It was hot, very hot, but it was packed. Met some MLB players and did not realize baseball players were as big as they are. Ball players. But that was really good. The bollards are installed. Ella Bacchus was the artist. So the bollards will look like baseballs. 2 of them are complete. 1 is not yet. She said she would get that done sometime this week, but looks really good. Cameras will be in there. So I don't think that statue will disappear. You all have talked about it quite a bit, but Thursday night is our evening council meeting. The budget is the main reason for that. So I hope that everyone who has thoughts about our budget, hopes, concerns, all of that will be there. Again, the 20th is our final vote on the budget. There has been lots of conversation about the revenue neutral rate. We don't know what that is. It's a extra hurdle the legislature imposed on municipalities and other governing bodies in the state to where we have to let people know that we have made additional tax revenue. So not raising your taxes, but we've made additional revenues from the year before. This year, that's about $12.4 million. And we have some council members considering not taking the full amount or any at all. That is something that if you have strong feelings either way, you should be there to let us know what you think, all of us, especially on the 20th. I do want to highlight, if we don't take in the full 12.4 million, that adds to our deficits in the years coming. Next year's deficit is 3.6 million. 2027, 26 is 9.3 million, I believe. Anything we don't take starts to add to that. And honestly, we'll never catch up unless we do something extreme like raise the mill levy, several mills and not just one. So we have to decide as a community what type of city we want, what type of government we want. There are those who believe core services is the way to go. Core services is public safety, police, fire, public works, stuff like that, judicial. And then there's all the other things that we do. You haven't watched the last budget presentation, Assistant City Manager Dante Martin gave worked with our staff to have a really good comprehensive crime prevention analysis that highlighted what Park and Recs and libraries and other departments do to actually aid in crime prevention. It's not just law enforcement, and any officer will tell you that too. We can't police our way out of everything. We have to do much more and make some additional investments. So if you do have the time, check out that last budget meeting, show up and let us know what you think. It is in the evening, so you get off work. Instead of going home and eating some really good food, come let us know what you think and then go home. And then August 20th, again, is our final vote on that. So I hope to hear from everyone on their thoughts about our budget, especially our young folks, because we make investments now for the future. Other than that, September's District 1 breakfast will feature Assistant City Manager Dante Martin. Hope to see you all there. And I know he's going to hear about this. Make sure you have at least 100 questions because he is very to the point. And I told him I was going to get him. So we have a lot of questions. Should be a good presentation. He'll probably talk about this crime prevention as well as what we do on the courts. We do a lot of really good work in the courts to help people, not just throw folks in jail. We had several programs. I won't steal his thunder, but definitely a breakfast to be at. And hope to see you there. And past that, I can't think of anything else that's been in the news other than we are in stage 2 of our drought plan. So that is watering once a week. The folks from the extension office actually taught me something. I didn't know I was watering too much. So they said 1.5 inches a week is all you need. And I think I was doing like 3 inches. So I've actually not watered my yard in 1.5 months now. So my yard is half dead. We don't have to worry about this council member not following our rules. But again, we are in that. Our goal is to hopefully stop some of the demand on the reservoir. We do have 2 sources of water. So that's Cheney and also the Eccles beds. The Eccles beds, I believe, are over 90% full, but that doesn't mean we just need to use all of that water. We have to plan for it now in the future. So this helps. It's either Thursday or next Tuesday, we will be voting on fines for hitting tier 2 and tier 3. There are council members that don't think we should do the things we're doing. And then there are some of us who don't think we're doing enough. Whatever your thoughts on that, please let us know. There are some exemptions that I know have not made everybody in the community happy for golf courses. So again, let us know what you think on that, so that we can try to make some better decisions for you all. But those are probably the main things I can think of. And National Night Out, I do need a head count. So on the 13th, we are getting a van. We're going to hope Cameron drives 10 and 2 and 20 miles per hour around. But we will be out trying to hit all of those celebrations like we did last year. I'm happy that I'm the reigning champ. I was always ready to get back on the van before everybody else. So we'll see if that happens this year. But it should be fun. Good food. We'll be around seeing all of the great folks in the community. So with that, any questions for me?
Question, and you may not be prepared right now, but there is so much confusion on the Little League football and the high schools and how it all meshes together and the Grove Park upgrades. And so the whole community just needs a better understanding of what's going on. Because it almost sounds like, this is what they're saying, it's killing or destroying our neighborhood football organizations. But that's the mindset.
I've heard some of that. I think there were some challenges last year that led more to that than what we're doing, but I will I will ask Troy and or Reggie to come to September's breakfast and talk about that as well. In short, surface level, there isn't a deal with 259 to use their fields. There have been a lot of complaints about the state of our fields, rightfully so. Our fields are not invested in the way they should be. So we are going to be using their fields. Overall, we've been shifting towards trying to make a more unified youth football league where, again, we can get to a point where we are taking care of uniforms and equipment, and we don't have to see the young people out on the corner jumping down the street trying to get money. Hopefully that's something we'll be able to take care of at some point, and that's what we're working toward. There may be some reorganization in that, but there were also some coaches who had some challenges that I think also are some of the voices right now that aren't happy. They may not like this process, but we are moving to a system that really invests in the young people now into the future, their education, with the now advancement of something I'm really excited about, even though I don't get the benefit in NIL. So many times we told our young folks, you don't really get money unless you get to the league. Now it's college. And if we're not teaching financial literacy, if we're not really hammering home grades, attendance, behavior, and highlighting that in college, if you get below 2.0, you won't see the field or the court anyway. So we are moving towards that. I think Dr. Polite's really going to help out quite a bit with that, but we will have them. I will reach out to Reggie and Troy. As far as the Grove Park complex, trying to make some progress. I got some of the yeses I was hoping to get now. So I think fundraising is going to be a little bit easier. If you haven't seen it, we are looking to build a 8-field football complex at Glendive Park, formerly known as Grove Park. There will be a additional playground, outdoor workout equipment, some additional parking, some new and improved walking trails through there, a statue and a roundabout, and a wonderful awards kind of plaza where we honor those who have made a real impact in sports and football, either at the collegiate level or the professional level. We've got a lot of those. The article on The Voice talks about my former neighbor, D'Angelo Evans, who was a wonderful running back in Nebraska. Didn't see him professionally, but he was a great running back. So folks like him who've made an impact, and we've got a lot of people. We have a lot of pros right now from Wichita that I don't think get enough credit. So all of that will be there. Should be pretty awesome. And the goal is to have it ready by next season. I always have really spirited goals that so far have actually happened. So we'll see this one happen.
I guess part of the disconnect is that if you become a junior Falcon, right, who are the coaches? How many? Usually an organization has one first grade, one second grade, one third grade, but if everybody's becoming a junior Falcon that lives in that district, then how many kids will actually play football? And how do you actually, where will practice happen? So it's just a lot of moving parts that hasn't been clear that people just like to hear.
No, you're absolutely right. We'll make sure somebody gets here to answer all of that. One of the technical pieces is the high school coaches will be involved in the hiring of the Little League coaches. So they'll be able to have some say-so over that and really keep focused on that system. And I think that it hit home the point that I've made to young people in summer jobs programs I ran, that you never know who's watching you. And so this high school coach is watching you come up, and you may be a great player, but you have a great attitude or you're a great student, and that will stick with you as you get better. That coach will be able to work with you on that as well.
And one more point, just because they weren't able to come tonight, one more point. And so what you just said, the high school coaches will be able to hire the coaches, but we know a lot of times, and I love teachers, I have a whole new level of love for teachers. And a lot of times they need supplemental jobs. And so they're afraid that the jobs that they could get will go to somebody that needs a supplemental job, as opposed to someone that's been invested in the kids for a really long time, that can pass a background check, that does have a degree, because there are some good coaches in Little League that, that could go to the next level.
Yeah.
So that's another concern as well.
No, I think always voice those concerns. It makes sense as we're building this process to talk about that and make sure we don't leave folks out like that. I don't think any good coach has anything to worry about. But, again, that's something like when we have that presentation to talk about. And I think every meeting to talk about, to make sure it's never a lost point.
So there is an opportunity for coaches, because I read the community voice, and for folks who are not familiar, it is on the front page of the Wichita Community Voice, so you should read it. I found it very interesting. But it sounds like there is an opportunity for current coaches to at least apply, though it may not mean they will be the one selected.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they will look
Right,
at.
but I just want to make sure that the opportunity is open. I understand anybody can apply.
Yeah, no, the opportunity will be there. I think a lot of what will be looked at is past coaching techniques.
Okay.
And efforts. So if you were one of the coaches doing some things you shouldn't have been doing, it might be harder for you to get a job. But if you're one of the ones that we know are out there day and night, spending their own money, helping these kids, not just in sports, but in life and mentoring and all that, I don't see them having a problem. And if they do, I'd be one of the people to say, you know, we really need to look at this person.
This is a larger discussion, which I won't belabor the point, but what impact does that have on folks who may have had past mistakes, but are incredible now, right? Now going through a city process that requires certain qualifications to work for the city. Are we gonna, hopefully we will keep that in mind too, because I mean, I'm sure that there are incredible coaches who may have, the reason why they're incredible is because they made a mistake in the past and now they know how to show up and be better, right? So I just hope that that's taken into consideration.
I think it will be. That's something we've been talking about since day one. The other thing that I liked about this was an opportunity for a coach, even that may not be the best coach, but has their heart in the right place, to get some mentorship from a high school coach and maybe become a better coach from that. So to me, it's all empowerment in that way. And I won't put my coach out, which coach I had, but I had a coach that I learned had an incredible background. That, yeah. So he became a really good guy and was a big mentor and a big reason why I'm here today and play football, because he learned from all the stuff that he did and made sure we did not. And he checked it real quick if you ever saw it. There was no attitude or disrespect to any coach. So I know there's a lot of folks who have challenging backgrounds that should be out there. I mean, that's why we support Violence Interrupters and stuff, people who've had that experience, some of the best folks that help persuade you to not go down that path.
I was in here for a little bit, but Parks and Rec, is there a conversation about potentially removing that from the budget? I want to clarify, there's a post circulating today. I've not been able to get a clear answer, but it's my understanding that we're not able to sell parks. Like that's a private property, or it would require a certain level of a process in order to even sell it.
It depends on who owns it.
Right.
So the
Okay.
park board owns some parks that we can't, as council members, do anything about because they own it. And then there's other parks that we have say so on. There was a comment made at a meeting, and I don't remember word for word, but I think a lot of folks in the community took that as a suggestion to sell some parks. I think that terminology was used. I can't remember the words at that time because I was kind of shocked about this revenue neutral thing. I'm trying to do some quick research on how messed up we would be if we went the path I thought we were about to go. But that comment was made, and there have been several comments about things that are not core services that may not be as important to fund. So that would take away investments in parks. I haven't heard a direct proposal to sell any specific park, but I think because of the comments that were made, there's a lot of folks who worry about that. I'm not in favor of selling any park. But I think that's what it is. The real concern is the investment in the department, cultural arts, all of that.
We'll show up on Thursday.
Show up on Thursday. And honestly, I mean, even if someone has the wrong impression of what was said, say it. You know, we're up there for a reason, so it's on us to correct that if it's wrong, or stand on it if it's right.
Thank you.
Anything else? Doing good. Anything from the public?
The 20th of regular morning meeting.
Yes, 9 a.m. I knocked it out the park.
Sure you did. I spelled that wrong.
before we adjourn, I just want to say this. I thought we were rough on this crowd tonight, and I just think that we shouldn't give soliloquies when these people come to us because they have an issue, and I think we were kind of rough on them. Tex left, and I wish he was still here. We're here just to take in the facts, hear their comments, and not give them a lecture on how they feel about something. And I just think we were rough tonight.
Do you feel the comments spurred any additional discussion? So I only ask that, and I'm not saying you're wrong at all. Since I came in late from the other thing, when I walked in, I actually heard a pretty awesome discussion. Now, I think some points were made from certain DAB members, but some of those points spurred this gentleman here to say more. He was actually allowed to go a lot longer than he probably should have and bring in those pictures, but I think that spurred more conversation and points being made from several DAB members that I thought were very informative and sparked more conversation from the neighborhood. I think to your point, maybe tone, but so for me, just talking to you all, I've always appreciated when you bring up certain points. And every now and then I'll push one of you to say a little something. I can see the wheels turning, but from that discussion, it gets more information out, that allows more interaction either with the public or for me when I have to make a vote or answer questions from the council. Several good points are made. And honestly, I don't pick on him all the time, but Joseph, when he was on DAB before that break he took, had made a point about a development on 21st and Oliver. The person was not in favor. But it was a discussion that started here, the points that he made that kind of made me think about what if there had been no investment there for 40 years. We had Senator Gooch, who was still around at that time, who was making an argument for it. I had other neighbors against it. Personally, because I lived over there, I didn't care to see a 4-story building over there on that corner, but it was DAB discussion and some challenges that Joseph made. That was like, see what happens. And so far, it's good. I don't like the 4-story buildings too, but you know, it's been activated over there. There's young people there and it's good.
And that is the place most likely to be impacted by a tornado within a 2-mile radius, for sure.
But I think
I saw that thing going up and it was not ideal. They lost their primary contractor and wound up with a less than, you know, maybe not substandard, but a less than optimal
I pass
contract.
it forward almost every day. But I think that as a dad, I think we do ask really good questions. I think we do try to get to the heart of the nature. But sometimes I just think tonight we were rough. I really do.
Well, more to what Luana's saying, what came out for me is the travesty that's going on 34th Street that's impacting this community. And what do we do about it? And so we learn how, you know, we want to try to help them get a traffic. But and even more is the trash. And you know, trash flying in the air, my neighbors 2-3 blocks up the street will have garbage piled out and running over, and it blows down right over the fence.
And some of you know that I may or may not have made phone calls on my neighbors before, but it doesn't always fix the problem.
No, how do we?
That's
That's the thing. We need to figure it out.
Yes.
We need to find a way to figure it out.
So I just don't want us to say, oh, just call a number and they'll fix it. I think we just have to have a honest conversation, like you gotta call again and again. But we can't say, oh, you know what, if they don't do it, just call this number, it'll be fixed. Not necessarily.
No,
So we just have to make sure that we're not telling them something that's not actually the truth. Well, it's the truth, but it's a very slow wheel.
And maybe there's a way to set up an organization that will help folks work through some of this stuff. There must be a path.
I mean,
Everybody think about it. There must be a path.
But
You have the neighbor.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I think I appreciate that comment, Juan, and I think for me, and I didn't get a chance to say this while they were here. I think we can hold duality. I think it's a yes and. I think I appreciated them coming. And I think I heard we want quality of life. And we want our neighborhood to be this way. And they are their neighbors. And these folks have to have access to certain amenities to be able to experience their quality of life.
And we
too.
really did
So it's a
encourage
yes
more
and.
conversation between.
And I thought there was a lack of cultural misunderstanding, potentially, I don't want to assume, which is why I appreciated Chelsea's comments, because I think people don't know what they don't know, and it's okay to not know, and we have to create space to have a conversation.
And I think we expounded on the churches, you know, their ability to worship and do their things, but we didn't tell the community the same thing.
Yeah.
Not as strong. And what you just said would have been just like.
Yeah, well, and the general office would have, many of the complaints they had would have allowed for the same things.
Right.
That was the other thing. I didn't want to say that
Right.
again.
And
You don't want to crush their spirit. but-
Right, because they were done. And because we didn't get a full report like we did last time, they didn't really hear that most of that thing's gonna happen anyway. With general office, they would do it anyway, but they
Their
didn't get that.
concerns would still be there.
Right, right.
But we did hear the concerns and we need to, you know, all of us need to figure out what can, because that's not just going on there, it's going on other places
Oh,
too.
yeah.
We need to figure out a way to address these kinds of concerns with the trash and the traffic. You know, I mean, the things I heard were things they're already facing. And they say, oh, we think it's gonna be worse if you do this, but even without this, it's awful. So we need a path that works. And I don't know how, I've got no idea where to start.
So they, right, if those things weren't already going on, they wouldn't have had so many concerns.
They wouldn't have been so deeply concerned and mortally terrified of the vampires coming.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we adjourn. Second.
Here's all in favor, back up. And
Thanks, guys online.